get ISO. Yeah, they saying I'm the man. Facts, bro. Facts, lot of haters. Tell me where they at, though. I'm the new pop, all I do is rap, though. Yeah. Want me on your song, throw a couple stacks, yo. Woo. Everybody wanna do the same thing. Yup. That's why we ain't on the same page. No. Do my own thing, and I maintain. Woo. Flow like water, so I'm going mainstream. I'm going mainstream. Flow like water, so I'm going mainstream. Yeah, I'm going mainstream. Flow like water, so I'm going mainstream. I'm going mainstream. Mainstream. Flow like water, so I'm going mainstream. Yup.
Welcome to the Xbox Infinite podcast. Sorry, we're a little bit late, guys. We were having a few chats in the background, as you do, about all the stuff that's happened this week. It has been a massive week, and we have some great guests this week, as well as our normal panel. Before we get started, I want to say something about the Russian and Ukrainian incident, and we will not talk on this too much, but I will say that our hearts go out to the people of Ukraine. And it's just terrible what's going on over there. And hopefully that comes to a resolution sooner rather than later. But moving forward, like I said, we've got a fantastic show this week. Lots of things happened. Elden Ring released, and so much more happened in the background. We got a little bit of late news last night as well. And before we get into topics, though, I'll introduce the guests. Mr. Joanna Dark, welcome back. It's great to have you back here again, man. How you been doing? What have you been up to? Have you been playing Elden Ring? What have you been playing?
Hey, what's up, gentlemen? Thank you again for inviting me. It's always a pleasure. Yeah, I've been pretty busy with work, with life. So no, unfortunately, I have Elden Ring installed, ready to go. But I'm probably gonna sit down this weekend and really dive into it. And I'm still debating if I want to either go with the Confessor or the Samurai. So I'm still thinking on that. But I have been playing some Horizon Forbidden West. And I'm just ready here to just hang out with you guys, talk some gaming news, and just have a good time.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's a great game and life-consuming. Myself and Jedi haven't really slept much in the last few days since it released. Jack, I hear you're a recent resident of New Zealand. How you been doing? What have you been up to? I know you've been playing Elden Ring.
I've been doing great. Thanks for asking. The weather's lovely in New Zealand. It's really nice to be your neighbor for once. Yeah, I've been playing a lot. Elden Ring for me, I think I'll reserve some comments before the pitchforks and torches should not come out this early. But I have been playing a lot. Elden Ring's one of them. I got back into Cyberpunk on the next gen patch, loving that. Horizon Forbidden West has been an experience that's really blown me away, and then I always default back into my happy game in preparation for the DLC, which is Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Yeah, great game. I need to go back to that with the DLC, man. Now, I did clock that game pretty quickly after release, and I love it, man. I love that game. I know it's Ubisoft games. They're all like pretty similar, but that and Far Cry 6 still in my backlog. And of course, every week we have our fantastic panel with JediKnightPete. How you doing? I know what you've been playing, but tell the people what you've been up to, what you've been playing.
Yeah, good, mate. Yeah, good. Look, I just wanted to say my thoughts and prayers with the people of Ukraine. Gaming seems a little bit insignificant when things like that happen. So I just wanted to start with that. Other than that, yeah, look, I've been playing Elden Ring, of course. I put a tweet out that I said that I would be not living my real life this week, and not to worry because I'll be replacing that with living and dying in the lands between. And boy, have I been dying. But I've been having a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, it's a great game. I'm loving it. And our other fantastic panel member, Infinite or Eternal or Umbra, whichever name he's going by. How you doing, man? What have you been playing? What have you been up to? How's your week?
I've been good. You guys can call me anything, but Umbra is the quickest. I've been suffering as well in the Dark Souls newest entry, Elden Ring. As I said, I joked earlier, it's made me an elder in this ring because they've been killing me non-stop. This damn tree sentinel. I'm trying to get him now, and he's still just murdering me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm loving it, though. I will say that. It just pointed out how long it's been since I played a game as challenging. But yeah, it's been taking my time. It's probably going to be a no-life situation where I just dedicate to this. But, yep, ready to chop it up with you guys.
Absolutely, man. And look, I'll apologise for this game cap. I do not know what happened with the program. It's, for some reason, tore the screen. But it's not too bad. It later on drops down to about there, so you'll just have to deal with it. Right, some late news dropped last night. I'm going to lead with that. It's pretty interesting, and I'll go verbatim if I can just find the article. But the Activision Blizzard acquisition, one of the shareholders of Activision Blizzard is suing Microsoft. And I'll just quickly read a short thing. The lawsuit calls into question potential conflicts of interest, specifically that the deal is not in the best interests of Activision. Kyle Watson is the plaintiff, nor company stockholders, and will produce lucrative benefits for the officers and directors, and not for the shareholders. It also referenced the golden parachute that some executives, the $50 million golden parachute that Bobby Kotick would receive should he be fired. Well, I'm pretty sure he will be fired. This is quite interesting because this is the first pushback, proper pushback that we have seen. And look, we were talking before the show, and the general feeling is that Microsoft will handle this, but this could be damaging in front of the commission, and they could look into this. And look, I personally think Microsoft will be able to move through this. They've got some pretty good lawyers, the best in the business, but this might be the first of many lawsuits, and this could damage the deal. I don't think there's anything to be too concerned about just yet. But JediKnightPete, what do you think?
Yeah, look, I think it might be a whole lot of nothing. I don't think Microsoft or Activision would have gone ahead with the deal if there was going to be no pushback. Obviously, they would have had to have got majority shareholder approval before going ahead with a deal like this. I don't know how much of a shareholder this plaintiff is, but I can't see it affecting the deal. I can see it affecting public perception of the deal, and how important that becomes is yet to be seen.
Yeah, absolutely. Joe, do you think this is going to affect the deal in the way that Microsoft does business around it?
All I can say about this is that I think from the start, with this being a big deal, there was going to be a lot of things prior to that. I mean, if it wasn't for an acquisition, there was going to be lawsuits regardless, I think, on many ends because of the things that the unfortunate things that transpired when it came to workplace culture and a lot of the things that Activision Blizzard as a company was going through. So whether they were going to be acquired, so forth, this was kind of something that maybe, it's coming to light now, and it as always, something gets amplified. So we just have to wait and see.
Yeah, absolutely. Umbra, how do you feel about someone throwing a lawsuit down at Microsoft's feet about the deal? And do you think this is the first of many? Or they'll quash it here?
It's probably the first of many, but I don't think it'll amount to anything. It's like standard practice, basically, from what I've seen. They also did the same with, I can't remember the company's name at the moment, but they've done it before.
Wasn't it with Bethesda? They were getting Bethesda had some legal issues with something as well.
Yeah, it might have been with them, but it pretty much got dismissed, if I'm not mistaken, and it just went away from there. They'll probably, if it comes to anything really serious, I would guess at most it'll be just some type of settlement situation. Microsoft is not letting this that right there getting away. So yeah, and
Did you think that was the reason for it, Umbra? You think that
it's possible
that was the
they want to
reason
get a quick
settlement?
cash grab. Yeah, I wouldn't put it past them. I mean, it's smart, but it's greedy, but smart.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at what they're paying the shareholders, I think it was like 85% of the market cap or something on top of what it's actually worth. So I can't see how it's not a good deal for shareholders, and I think everyone in the industry was talking about how it was such a good deal for the shareholders. Jack, do you think he's getting a good deal and they're just pushing for a little bit extra money, or?
So it's interesting, like always, I'm going to have to defer exactly to what both Jedi and Umbra have said. I completely agree with them. I think Jedi's 100% correct. Do I think this will ultimately sort of, affect the solvency and the viability of the merger? Absolutely not. Do I think that it will affect public perception? No, not to the greatest degree, but I think Jedi's absolutely right about that. The fact that we're talking about it would be indicative that there's already some truth to that, I would think. And then I definitely agree with Umbra. I think at the end of the day, it does kind of reek of sort of economic opportunism, but I can't slant anyone for that. I think we'd probably all do the same, if we had the opportunity. And it comes down to how much this plaintiff, what his percentage in the company is. Frankly, if a merger is going through, the decision has been made by a vast plurality of shareholders, or at least the ones that have enough to have a vote. So it's going to go through. I think this is just sort of litigation that's to be expected, and I think Umbra's right. I think invariably the result will probably be a settlement of some kind. I think Umbra's 100% right about that. I can't, it's not exactly a criminal case. It's just civil litigation. So yeah, I think it's something between it. It's not quite a speed bump, but it's not quite just a crack in the pavement. We'll have to wait and see. But I think most of the fallout will revolve around just public perception. I can't imagine a deal with a $3 billion breakup clause overlooking something that trivial. You know what I mean? So we'll see.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I just want to talk a little bit about that before we got into the big news of the week. Before I do get into it, if you've just joined the channel, please hit that subscribe button. If you're joining us again, hit that like button, share it out amongst your friends, and let's get some people in the chat talking about Elden Ring. The reason that I am sleep deprived. Oh, this game is, for me, it's a 9 out of 10. It got a lot of 10 out of 10s. It got a lot of fantastic reviews. Metacritic for PS5, it's sitting at 98. For Xbox Series X, which only had 8 reviews, it's sitting at a 95. So there's a fair bit to talk about here, but the game itself, I think, is absolutely amazing. I'm new to the Souls series. This is my first serious attempt at a Souls game, and I'm loving it. It's a great game. I've got some issues with the multiplayer, and we'll get into that as well. But I think a 9 out of 10 is fair. 10 out of 10, I think, might be pushing it. There is some pushback in the community about giving a Souls-like game a 10 out of 10 because it is not a casuals game. It is considered a niche game, is what we've been hearing out in the community. Jack, do you think it's a niche game? Is it your type of game?
So I don't know. So I think it kind of was a niche game, but then I think when you've got a game where, you know, if you just look at Steam, not that that's the most accurate metric, you know, for popularity, you know, topping the charts at 700,000 people watching, I think at this point we could say it's no longer niche. It's pretty widespread, or at least this iteration's had a lot of commercial success. I think that Elden Ring, for me, I would score it lower than you. I think, quite frankly, and I think a lot of it, and I don't want to be the guy that says it, but I think graphically it does not impress me. And I'm playing on a Series X and a 4K 60-inch Samsung. I think it's not that it's unforgiving. I think because you come out, you know, of that temple and you're left to, you know, look for little lights in the skies and figure things out on your own. And if you know any From Software game, you know, that's what you should expect. If you didn't, I think you misled yourself. No, I think it's decent. I think it's the buttons, you know, sort of the layout for me is a little gratuitously, you know, it requires something of an endeavor, switching between one, two-handing another, you know. I think how many times have we meant to get on the horse and chug the flask? You know, I think we've all done that. But yeah, it's a good game. It's a good game. I think it's best fully enjoyed probably in a co-op experience, which I've not had. And you wanted to talk on sort of the complexity of co-op later, so I'll leave that out. It's fun. It's good. It's
no, look, absolutely. What do you think of that? You haven't had a chance to multiplayer, but have you tried?
Well, here's the thing. Yes, so I have and I haven't. I have tried, but my two boys were supposed to do it. They're getting those server problems where they can log in offline, but they cannot play online. So it's not that I haven't been able. I think From Software has not been able to give me the ability to enjoy that co-op experience. I haven't had that problem, but you know, both my boys have. So we're all proud New Zealanders, very excited to play, and here we are, you know, a day and a half, 2 days later, and we remain, you know, not having played that much. So yeah, that's it. You know, I hope and I know they're gonna fix it, and it'll be gone. And you know, a month from now, I'll be saying it's the greatest game ever made when I can find out how not to get my ass mercilessly slaughtered every 15 minutes. So there's a learning curve to it, and I think my opinion will probably change once I sort of kind of master that a little bit better.
Yeah, well, I think the multiplayer could have been a little bit more easier to deal with. The system's pretty convoluted. You can co-op with two people anywhere in the world, but with 3 or 4, I don't know if we haven't done 4, or have you done 4? I haven't done 4 personally. I've done 3.
We haven't done 4, mate. Yeah, we've done 3.
Yeah, we need to find a specific thing, usually before a boss fight or just going into a world, where you can drop a certain thing and then bring someone else in. Can't remember the names of these things. It's a very convoluted system. It's not just to invite, jump in, and start playing. And also within the world, you can go to certain areas together. But other areas will be blocked off for you to move into, which I find an odd choice. You can't co-op the whole game. You've got to jump in and out and in and out. Umbra, have you had a chance to co-op Elden Ring?
Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to do that yet. I was too busy suffering death at the hands of that damn tree sentinel and realizing now I need to level up some before I face him again. I just tried again with some summons and I did better. So I have a ways to go, but no, I haven't tried that yet. But what I have from what I've seen, and I've always had this issue with Souls games, is it's very convoluted on how you go about doing it. It shouldn't be this hard. I think a lot of the things that they do system-wise and UI-wise is made way more difficult than it should be, actually, just to be real. And, I mean, just to touch on what Jack brought up, because we discussed it before the show, as nice as some things look art style-wise, art style is just ridiculously great. And it's obviously an homage to the Berserk series in a lot of ways, and Miyazaki's great with that. Man, does this game look like it belongs on the Xbox One generation, like the 8th gen, or maybe even late 7th gen. Like, maybe I'm going too far. Let's just say Xbox One gen, early Xbox One gen, and 8th gen, 7th. No, I'm right, 8th. But the thing is, I wish they would really prioritize putting more into not just the art style, but the visuals and the mechanics of that, and on the technical side of things. Because to me, I think they kind of like skate by just because it has that nice template of the Souls games template. So they just, it was tough, it's challenging. So who cares about the visuals? Well, I do to some degree. After your like eighth game in the style of this, I think you all can do a little bit more as far as that goes.
Does this like unequivocally say, with all the scores that they have, that gameplay is king and graphics are not as important as we thought they were for a game to get a 10?
I think it does, and I will say I'm fine with that overall, because gameplay is king, and that does matter more. So while I'm not like, oh, what was me? I'm enjoying the game. I want to make that clear, by the way, too, because maybe it sounded a little too negative, but I absolutely am enjoying the game, and even the challenge, or even being murdered, as I have been so many times by that damn tree sentinel. But just if I was to go off like what I would want to be improved, I would have a laundry list of things that I would want them to do. But absolutely, the gameplay is solid. From what I've experienced, the frame rates are solid on that Series X. I know they had an update for launch, so maybe that's what it was, and it stabilized things. But I haven't had any issues when it comes to the technical side of things. My gripes would only come down to the UI and how they handle things as far as summoning or whatever it may be. Just simple things. Just simple, like, daily things you would do in a game are made a little more difficult than they should be, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think with the UI and the summoning in players, it doesn't need to be this difficult. The design choices are obviously for a reason, but for what reason you would limit players playing co-op, I don't know. I mean, obviously to make the game, to keep that Souls-like difficulty within the game, but if people want to co-op, you should allow them to do that. I've said that since the tech test. Jedi, I know you've got a lot to say about this game.
Look, I'm a long-time Souls devotee. I absolutely love what From Software do and what they bring to the table, and Elden Ring's the most fun I've had outside of the bedroom. I love it. And the score on Metacritic, I think everybody loves it. I mean, it's got universal acclaim. It's 97 on Metacritic now. I mean, only 4 games have got a 98, and then Legends of Zelda Ocarina of Time stands alone at 99. So it is in, the greatest games of all time when you're looking at Metacritic scores alone. I would disagree with Jack. I think this game and the fun of this game, yes, co-op is great, and I do believe the system is convoluted. But actually, once you learn the systems, the best thing about this game is testing yourself individually. So going out into the world, killing those bosses on your own. Co-op makes it easier, and yes, games are fun with friends, but the enjoyment of this game comes from beating that unkillable, that unbeatable boss. That euphoria, that adrenaline rush when you finally beat a boss that you've been stuck on for hours. There's nothing quite like it in gaming, and it gets me every time. I mean, it gets me every time, and I can't stress how much fun I'm having in this game. I'm loving exploring the lands in between. I'm loving, meeting all the NPCs, going through their quest lines. Yeah, it's just been an absolute ball. And quite frankly, if I wasn't doing this podcast, I would be playing Elden Ring.
I think we all would. Joanna Dark, you haven't had a chance to play it, but if we can speak on why is it that the PlayStation has 49 reviews or 45 reviews or whatever it has now, and the Xbox has only got 8 reviews. That's a fairly distinct media bias, you would have to think, right?
I think it's a I think I'm gonna first discover the eternal life before I discover what the answer to that is, because it's always if you look at that, it's always like that, and it's weird. Maybe it's at the end of the day, it's just something I don't even focus on, because again, Metacritic does serve a purpose, but at the end of the day, for me personally, I play what I want, and I listen or read articles for the people that I follow, that I trust their opinion, that have maybe the same interests in games that I do. Everything I've heard so far, I agree with the panel. I think one of the things that I want to say when it comes to Elden Ring, and I know Umbra was talking about graphics, look at Breath of the Wild, right? Breath of the Wild we've had cell shades, right? We had with Jet Set Radio and Breath of the Wild. What to me, it wasn't a technical marvel. It was an amazing game when it came to open world, and when I look at the Souls games, that's what they are. They're games that are well put together, that provide endless hours of content and discovery, and especially now with Elden Ring, when I've been watching the videos and reviews, and I think the game is incredible. And I disagree that it's a niche game, because if you think about it, there's some games that we think amongst each other that were given maybe game of the year or scored high, and I can say I don't think they're a 10, but who am I, right, when many other people agree? And I think that's a disservice. Just because maybe you don't like a Souls game or you haven't gotten it, you don't want to give it a try, I don't think that means that the game cannot be a 10 or be a masterpiece.
I think they used to be niche games, Joe, but I don't think they are anymore. I think ever since Dark Souls 3.
Right.
To me, Dark Souls reminds me of Castlevania 2. And it reminds me of the old games that we used to play as kids, where the difficulty was about learning the game and learning the bosses. And I remember playing games like Castlevania 3 and saying, wow, I just beat this person. And I was like, cool, after a long session. And I think that's the stigma of them. And
thrill of the game is the fact that they don't hold your hand, isn't it? Like, that's the whole point.
I mean, I think it's an experience that I love, and that's one of the things I love about Breath of the Wild. It was about the discovery. It wasn't about giving me a HUD and holding my hand. It's like a good movie or good show, right? A show that respects your time and gives you breadcrumbs, and you yourself kind of uncover the layers. That's what I love about these Souls games. I mean, I beat Sekiro, and Sekiro is one of my favorite Souls games. I haven't beat all Souls games. I own them, but I've gotten enough time into them. And I'm excited for Elden Ring because I feel that I love the freedom that it's giving you. So, it's still punishing, but, going in like Sekiro and being able to, take an enemy out with stealth, come back and go and get somebody else, I think it's great. And I guess when I play it, I'm going to give it my own, review and judgment of what I think, but I don't see why this game can't be a masterpiece. And I think a lot of the people that are upset are people that are never going to play this game, and they may just not like this game. And again, it's okay. Not every game's made for you, but it doesn't mean not every great movie, not every great everything is not amazing.
Yeah, exactly that. Look, to me, this is my first Souls game, and I like the fact that there's no hand holding, there's no waypoints telling you where you need to go. You just get out there and start running around and do your thing. And if you come up against a boss that's too difficult, you can always try 100 times like we did yesterday, or you can go off and level yourself up and come back and try again. The discovery in this game is amazing. The discovery in this game is what's over there. I'm going to go have a look, and if you can see it, you can get to it. And the size and scope of this game is amazing. I'll definitely agree with Umbra that, look, graphically, it's not sitting in the realms of a Horizon Zero Dawn or Horizon Forbidden West, or it's not sitting in the realms of a Gears franchise. But look, I think the gameplay more than carries it over. And like Pete loves to say, gameplay is king. And I'm having a fantastic time with this game. However, I know that this game is not for everyone. So I do think a 10 out of 10 is a little bit pushing it. And I do think that these reviewers are Souls players. And when you give a Souls game to a Soul player, they're going to, and they love a Souls game, they're going to give it a glowing review, because this is everything that the Souls series has been leading to, and the only thing they could have really done better, I think, is multiplayer and graphically.
But Risk,
on that
Risk,
as well.
can I ask you a question? Aren't people that are Souls fans more critical, similar to people who are Halo hardcore fans, more critical about the game? So you would think that if this game was as terrible or wasn't a 10, they would be more critical about it?
Well, I think it's a very interesting question. I'm going to kick that over to Pete, because Souls players are very different to Halo players, and what they want from their Souls game is very different to what Halo fans want from a Halo game. Pete?
Yeah, look, I think there's absolutely no doubt that if the game wasn't good, that the Souls fan base would have called them out on it. I think there was a little bit of divisiveness within the community when they said that they might be making the game, a little bit easier. We were a little bit worried about the open world aspect of it. We didn't want to be losing, that difficulty aspect of, of the Souls franchise. But really, what it's done amazingly well. I would agree that the game doesn't look magnificent and doesn't particularly look like a 9th generation game, and it is a cross-generational game. So, that's going to happen. But looking out into the distance over one of those beautiful vistas that are in the game, knowing that you can then go there, discover what's out there, face the challenges of getting there, then running into a boss, it's just amazing. And although the game isn't the greatest looking game, it is still incredibly beautiful. The NPC design and the enemy design is absolutely top notch, as good as it gets. The
Jedi,
diversity of the actual NPCs and the enemies is amazing as well. They all have different movesets that you have to learn. They all fight in different ways. They all look that they belong in this world that was created by George R.R. Martin. They all look like they have a purpose, like they're heading somewhere when you run into them, or they all have their reason to be there. They all have their own story. Now, there's no quest outline in the inventory telling you, go here, do that, but you go speak to them, and from there they will tell you what they need, what they want, and then you can go there and follow that quest line. Now, keeping up with all of that without having a quest log does get difficult, and it does mean that you're going to miss out on certain aspects of the game that maybe, someone that's also playing it does get to experience. You know what? You can go back and play it again.
Jedi Peter, I got a question. Of everything you said, do you feel that with all the things you just kind of laid out in the sense of design, the character, the world, do you think all those things make up for the fact that the graphics aren't the main thing, but all those other things make it great, and that the reason they also didn't put a map is because they want to even add more replayability?
Yes, I do. I think replayability is a massive part of the Souls franchise. I mean, they have New Game Plus, and you can New Game Plus it up to 10. Like I don't know what the limit is, but I know in Souls games, for example, you cannot get certain weapons until you're actually playing it in New Game Plus 10. It's just crazy. That means you need to go through the game 10 times before you can actually access some of the weapons in the game. So the Souls games have always been made for replayability. In terms of graphics, yeah, I mean, the gameplay and the fun of combat and everything about it makes up for that. More than makes up for that, if you ask me. They're serviceable, if not better than serviceable. So I don't really focus on the graphics, and Risket said, what I love to say all the time, gameplay trumps all. Gameplay is king, and the gameplay in this game is the best there is in gaming.
I just want to interject real quick, if that's all right, gentlemen. I'm not like really a graphics makes a game type of guy, but I do got to agree with them. So this is the first game where they've offered both a performance mode, right, and a quality resolution mode, where the performance mode to me looked so underwhelming, I actually turned on the resolution. I'm playing that game in the resolution, in the quality mode. That's how let down I was. I don't know if that's because my only Souls experience was the Demon Souls remaster, I think maybe that I'd sort of...
Blue Box did an amazing job, and you have to say that the graphics of that are trump this quite substantially, don't they?
Yeah, so maybe I'm just sort of tainted with that having been my first real foray into sort of the Souls verse. But it is. I remember that I thought, well, this looked so underwhelming to me. I'd rather play it at 30 frames per second. And that's...
Jack, I think it's actually a downgrade from Dark Souls 3, if you ask me, as well.
Yeah,
so I can see where people are coming from.
Yeah, because I don't know if anybody else is doing that, particularly you, Umbra, because I know you sort of share my opinions
Do you
on the
guys
matter.
think you think it's a limitation of the fact that they went open world and
Oh,
hopefully
100%.
now that
100%.
now that hopefully the next time Miyazaki and team are coming
And the
on this
fact it was cross-gen
they'll
as
be
well,
able to-
Joe.
Yeah, cross-gen. I think the
Yeah,
open world adds
open
so
world.
much.
Yeah, absolutely. Those played a factor, but and I like I said, like Risk pointed out, gameplay is king. It matters much more. And to those Souls players, those gamers rather, who really appreciate the style of game this is a 10 out of 10 for them. I get it.
Right.
I'm not
It's
the
for me.
biggest Souls fan, but I do enjoy them. I'm not to Jedi's level on it, but I absolutely do. Or my boy Vinny, and Vinny, by the way, is excellent at it. So, but the thing is from what I've played, it's one of those things. If you like a challenge, it's going to keep bringing you back, and it's definitely doing that for me. So, in that sense, I get why those who enjoy this type of game will give it a 10 out of 10. But if I was to look at it in a really subjective, like really critical eye, absolutely visuals would hinder it for me. So I definitely get why Jack would go to the, go away from performance mode into and actually get the visuals up. So I definitely get it, because I was just underwhelmed when I saw it. I was like, I expected a little bit
because
better.
I didn't find myself pressed to do that with, like, one of the other games I'm playing right now is, since the patch, is Cyberpunk. And I've always maintained that Cyberpunk was a good game, even though, that a lot of people wanted to string me up for it. I enjoyed it. But I don't have to do that for Cyberpunk. I find I have to do it for Elden Ring. And that's
I
an
would
open
second
world
that
game.
USO Vinny is great at this game. He actually taught me stuff about Dark Souls and Elden Ring, which is rare. But yeah, look, I understand where you're coming from, Jack. But does that take away your enjoyment of the game? Like the
it
gameplay
does.
is. It
does.
does.
It
Okay.
does. Not to the point where I'll be the first one to say I think it's an amazing game. I think my experience in terms of my friends having the bugs, not being able to, there's just some like outside tertiary factors that are sort of mitigating it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I've chucked a poll up in the chat if you guys want to hit that and give your opinion. Is Elden Ring for you a 10 out of 10, a fair score? At the moment, we've got 75% no.
Yeah, I wanted to shout out
I
to
would
what
agree
Guy
with
Mad
that.
said. If you sit there and look at it, it's not the best looking game, but when you're playing it, it all blends together nicely, and it fits in the world, and it fits in the universe.
And does it give them? This is the other thing. Like they've gotten to a point, these Souls games now, where this is probably the pinnacle of their prowess. But they've still got somewhere to go.
Yeah.
Graphically, they now have somewhere to go.
Yeah.
So when you see the next game and it's just another Souls game, open world, but it looks amazing. You're looking at another 10 out of 10. Do you think this is possibly a purposeful, deliberate design choice, Joanna Dark?
Come on, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I think this game is going. It's not about being a graphical showcase. I think it's more about what they wanted to do with this world and iterate upon what they've done with their other games. And to me, Elden Ring looks like a culmination of everything we've seen them do, from Demon Souls back on the PS3 all the way to the last one, which was Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, and now you have this.
Yeah, absolutely. Pete, you had something to say?
Yeah.
No, that's
caught
just
the
a
tail end of
ridiculous
that one,
comment.
Jack.
That is a ridiculous comment. They reduced the quality of the graphics so they had somewhere to go on their next game. So they did it on purpose.
Well, hang on. No. That's not what I said. That's not what I said. Hang on a minute. That is not what I said. What I'm saying is did they not put as much time in the graphics, knowing that you can't reduce it. You don't produce a game and then go, right, these graphics are way too good, bring it down so the next game is better. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, do you think they didn't focus on the graphics as much? They wanted to get the gameplay right, knowing that when they make their next game, that is something that they can step up, and that would give their next game that next level.
Yeah, look, that's possible. That is definitely possible. So they added horse combat. They added weapon.
So many gameplay elements.
Weapon skills. Yeah, they added more.
ability to jump.
Yeah, the ability to jump. So yes, possibly they didn't focus on graphics as much, and I like that they did that. I really do like that they did that, because when you actually play the game, it feels amazing. And yes, I suppose it does give them a place to go for the next game when it's not going to be cross-generational. But, you know, in the meantime, I'll be playing Elden Ring a few times before I need to play the next one.
Yeah, but so when they make the next one, guys, and if they do not step up their graphics, because it always seems to be something that is brought up with Souls games, do we think that there's backlash from the Souls community? Do you think they'll care?
Oh, yeah.
Or Jack?
Doubtful. Very, very doubtful. And I think it is what it is. I think it's much like we brought up with Halo a minute ago. You have the stands that have exactly what they need, and you have to hit those things. And that, for the Halo gamers, like myself, is that triangle, right? And the same applies for Souls games. As long as they hit what they need to gameplay-wise, people will overlook the graphics. At least the Souls fans will.
I look at this game, right? And one of my other games that I love was Dragon's Dogma. And if you look at that game right now, it's not a pretty looking game, but I think with these Souls games, they're not what we like other games. They're their own type of game, where it's not like, you know, like our Horizon Forbidden West, or like, you know, our Last of Us, or, you know, like Gears of War. They're not meant to be like spectacle showcases, because those are kind of narrative driven games. This is more about the discovery. And I think a lot of the things that we may say those other games, we wish that the other games did, this game does, with the attention to details. Look at the enemies, of how much emphasis they put on some of these bosses, the discovery. I think there's a lot of great things that this game does that, just like Umbra said, that people of this type of genre expect from the game. And if they get a graphical bump, I think that's like a positive, on like a cherry on the top.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we've got to move on to our next topic.
Hey, Rick, before we move on, I just want to address one question Palpatine asked in the chat really quick. He said, "Hello, everybody. Anybody have any bug issues? I saw ACG put out a video that there were bug problems even after the day one patch. Not trying to be critical or divisive, just curious." To me, from what I've played, and we talked about this before the show started, I haven't had any issues. It's been buttery smooth, 60 frames per second. I will say.
It actually isn't 60 frames per second, but I was actually watching, I think, an IGN video on that Umbra, and basically it constantly drops between 45 and 60, but it does it in a way that you don't notice it, because it's like how they explained it, and I'm not very technically minded when it comes to this stuff, is it's like a drum beat. So it's always hitting a rhythm. So even though there are frame drops, you won't notice it, huh? Yeah.
So is it aimed at 60 but just drops down? Is that what it is?
Yeah, and so the quality mode drops between 30 and 60, and the performance mode drops between 45 and 60, but very, very rarely will you notice it. Now, I'm playing it on frame rate, because I think Souls games should always prioritize frame rate, because gameplay is king, and I haven't actually noticed it. I've noticed it a couple of times in boss fights, especially when me and Risket and Boba were taking on the boss at the castle. I forget what his name is. I definitely felt a little bit of stuttering issues, especially when there was a lot of particle effects on screen. But the main issue we've been having are network issues. And I suppose, and that has been a problem, and I've heard that around the community a little bit. And I mean, the co-op system is convoluted at best, but we've had to do a couple of restarts to get everybody into the game.
Yeah, well, that added to that's the other issue that I was having. That's the only thing that I've seen. I don't even see that many frame rate dips when we were fighting that area boss. And man, is he tough, and he's been nerfed. But I'll get back to him later on after this show.
The ACG was for the PC that he went back on his review.
Right. Yeah. So look, I haven't seen that many frame rate dips. I've been playing it on performance mode as well, and it's been fantastic. The screen tearing that you see on the screen, that is due to my capture card probably slowly dying. But yeah, there really been no issues. But with the multiplayer being as convoluted as it is, and the issues that they're having with servers, and that's probably likely because there's so many people playing the game. Right. It does make it hard to get in, but I think that'll tidy up over the next month or so, and I don't think it's anything to really worry about. We always manage to get in after a little bit of messing around. You'll probably see it in my gameplay here, probably messing around for 5 minutes, and then we're in and off we go. So yeah, like Palpatine, as far as bugs and issues, there's not any that are real issues for me in gameplay at all on the Series X. I can't speak for the PS5. I haven't played it on that, but I have heard that there is more of a frame rate issue on that. but I don't know from personal experience. We're going to move on to the next topic. Before we do, if you just joined us, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you're not subscribed, hit that bell to know when we do go live. Fallout New Vegas 2 and the legendary editions for Fallout and Gears have been rumoured on Jeff Grubb's Grub Snacks. Now, this is just a rumour, and Umbra, I don't know if you have the direct quote there. If you do, I'll go to you so you can let us know what it is. But the rumour behind the scenes is that they're looking to Obsidian to build a new Fallout New Vegas 2. Do you have that article, Umbra?
I do. Basically, I'll just read the blurb of what he said. So the latest episode of Jeff Grubb's Grub Snacks podcast talked a bit about the possibility of a Fallout New Vegas sequel. According to his sources, it's looking like a new game might be possible, but we're also years away from anything happening. This is very early. This is his quote. This is very early, but people have begun to have talks and say these words and sentences, and those words are Obsidian and New Vegas 2, Jeff Grubb said, according to VGC's transcription. We're talking years and years away, Grubb continued. There's at least an interest in conversations happening about making something like that actually a reality. That's the end quote.
Mm-hmm. Look, Joe.
Not only are they talking about the sequel to it, but they're talking about doing, remasters for certain games too. So just to be clear to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the legendary editions of Fallout and Gears are being talked about. Joe, I know you talked about this a little bit on Mr. Boom's show. So. Look, my kind of question is, Obsidian's probably the studio I would choose to do a Fallout. I'm not a massive Fallout fan. I played them a little bit, but not a massive amount. But do you see Obsidian taking over that mantle, especially knowing how much Todd Howard has a love for that franchise? The word is on the street that they didn't want the Fallout franchise sitting to the wayside for too long.
This goes back to that interview when they asked Todd Howard before any of these acquisitions to Microsoft, and they asked him if he would work and give the Fallout franchise to someone else, and he kind of deferred it, but then he says, "Don't ever say never." And I think right now Starfield is his baby. This is a new IP that they're bringing, and then they want to concentrate on the Elder Scrolls. And why not give it to Obsidian? We saw that the Outer Worlds was a love letter to Fallout 3, and I just think that if you're going to give it to a team, it has to be Obsidian is the right team to give it to. Fallout New Vegas, to me, I love Fallout 3, but Fallout New Vegas was amazing. I thought they did a lot of things.
It's the best Fallout game, isn't it?
I think so.
When you look at to kind of compare this, a lot of people don't like Gears of War Judgment, but I thought the People Can Fly put some good things into that to kind of shake up the formula. And when I look at Obsidian, they made Fallout New Vegas and they improved on the VAT system. Similar, to kind of continue with that, is that when they took over Knights of the Old Republic 2, which is another great game, they took what BioWare did and they improved on with some amazing story there. And I would love to see this Fallout New Vegas happen and eventually, come to fruition, and they would be the right team. I guess
I've got a question for you then. Do they have time? They're making the Outer Worlds 2. They're making Avowed. They're making Grounded.
And that's my question, right?
Good point.
Does now the Outer Worlds take maybe a seat, and maybe New Vegas comes in, and who knows? Maybe
I would rather say that.
To grow.
I would rather say that. To be honest.
But remember, Grounded is supposed to come out, small team, and maybe that they leave someone to kind of make sure the game is still functioning, and maybe they move some people out that. Maybe, Obsidian had a little book somewhere, and they already had something they wanted to do. Unfortunately, they never got the chance to make it, and now, let's just say they pitch it to Todd Howard and say, hey, this is what we had planned if you ever gave us a crack at New Vegas, and they can probably whip something up and have it there. And to kind of tap in on the Fallout kind of Legendary Edition, there was a rumor on a while ago when there was a Nintendo Direct and they thought that this collection was going to come out on all systems, and it never happened. So it makes sense that it might be coming. My question is, do you think these games move over to UE5, and what engine would you see Fallout New Vegas go to?
UE5 would be ambitious for something that big.
Do you think so?
I feel like I'm not saying it can't be done. Obviously, with technology constantly almost like reaching a singularity.
We've seen heaps of successful open world UE4 games.
Sure. I mean, I should rephrase that. That's a good point. I it is 6 years off. I guess I'm looking at it sort of from the reference point of like now. You know, that would be what I would now consider ambitious. I would love to see it. I mean, I guess they did they did sort of the Matrix world in that tech demo, I guess. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm a little hesitant on it. I'm definitely for it. I like to see boundaries get pushed. Unreal 5, I think, would be the natural choice. I think it'd be hard to sell sort of a first-party next-gen title on, 6 years from now, 5 years from now.
What
on
engine
Unreal
was New
4.
Vegas done on, Jack? Do you know what engine they used for New Vegas?
No, I'm not. I do not know. Do you?
No, I don't. I'll look it up.
Yeah.
Let me look it up right now to be
I would
so real.
Game Bryo? Engine is Game Bryo? I don't know. I've never even heard of that engine.
Gamebryo, yeah, I've never heard of that either. I'd love to see it. I think we're reaching a point now where, as people with, a Series X or a PlayStation 5, we expect that. There is a generational leap, and that's why we bought these consoles, that's why we play them. And I think we expect it. I'd love to see it. I guess, I'm in 5-6 years from now, at the minimum for a game that scale, especially when you look at what all of Bethesda's, sort of subsidiary studios are doing. They're producing tons of content. I think Obsidian right now is probably very focused on Avowed and, among other things. Yeah, I think it could be done. I guess 6 years from now, it'll probably be the standard. 5 years from now, I think if it would have come out today, I'd be a little nervous. But
to touch on the thing, by the way, with the Gamebryo engine, it's prominent across titles, including but not limited to the Elder Scrolls Oblivion, Warhammer Online, Axis and Allies, of course, Fallout 3 and New Vegas. So, just so you all would know.
So, what's the precursor to the Creation engine, was it?
That's what it kind of might look like, but I think they're two different things, but I'm not sure.
I'm sure.
I wanted to ask Mr. Joanna Dark as well. He said that they probably came up with a framework for New Vegas 2, and they went to Bethesda or Todd Howard and said, this is what we got planned. Do you think that was just a recent thing? I would have thought that Obsidian would have gone to Bethesda even before the acquisition and said, hey, look, we really want to make a New Vegas 2. This is our thoughts on it. And I think maybe Microsoft got those two together, seeing they're under the Microsoft banner now, or do you think it's a recent thing where they've come up with this framework?
It's pretty well known though that Obsidian have wanted to do a Fallout for quite a while. The other thing that you probably want to think about as far as engines wise is why wouldn't they use the Creation engine? That's a proprietary engine that they could use.
That's true.
They absolutely could.
Yeah, that's true.
If I had, by the way, I have a consistent complaint for them as well, because if I was talking about as far as Dark Souls and how they haven't really, pushed the envelope when it comes to visuals, I would use that same criticism to Bethesda when it comes to some of their games and using just the Creation engine. Now, I know they're on the second volume of it, so I'm hoping to see Starfield looking peak great, right, once it releases, because they have a full year to polish it, so I'm sure it's going to look good. But I think as far as we've seen in pushing that envelope as far as next-gen visuals, Microsoft themselves have really great engines that they could use for this if they really wanted. I mean, imagine them using the id engine if they wanted to for the Fallout remaster or something like that, or for the next one. I mean, they could really obviously do that. There's no reason not to.
Absolutely.
It's like PlayStation with their Decima engine, and they use it across multiple titles. Do the same with the engines you have now in house. You have the id engine.
It all comes down to the fact of what Starfield's going to look like. When we actually see this new Creation engine out in the wild, is it going to live up to everyone's expectations and go from there?
I mean, what engine is Avowed using? Is it Unreal? I think it's Unreal.
I think it's Unreal. Yep.
I think it's UE4.
Why wouldn't you say, hey, look, maybe Fallout comes to UE5 and they move away and then they put their own spin, and again, making sure that Obsidian feels comfortable using an engine that they're familiar with versus maybe they're not as familiar with the Creation Engine 2, which is Todd's baby, and kind of, doing some things that you can go beyond that specific engine. But I do like the idea of the cross-pollination of, what if you get the mechanics of Doom into Fallout to improve the shooting. You know, we saw that in Fallout 4 a little bit, where they said that they went to id to help them with the shooting, so that way it felt a little bit more better when it came to the shooting.
Yeah, that's a great point, Joe. I think use whatever engine that they're comfortable with. I mean, we've seen what happened when BioWare were forced to use the Unity engine when they moved over to Mass Effect Andromeda. It was, a cluster, you know what? So they should have just stuck with what they knew.
Grey Monad's got a good point in the chat
you mean Frostbite?
Oh, sorry, Frostbite.
Yeah, I knew you meant Frostbite. But I will say this. I'll say this. They have enough support studios now too to also help ease into that transition too.
Right.
And you have now. Yeah. So I mean, Arcane, for instance, they use a homegrown engine. Well, not homegrown. It's called the Void engine, for instance, that they use for Dishonored and such. And so they have ways they can do it. They have the Slip Space engine with Halo. They have the Forza Tech engine. They have the id Tech. They have the Creation engine. They can absolutely use the id Tech. And id Tech is, from what I've read and been told and seen, is really easy. Yeah, it's very versatile and easy. It's like using Unreal for a lot of people. So I see no reason why they shouldn't. And I mean, the id Tech has been used in a lot of major AAA games. Why not use such a beautiful engine for a remaster or remake or the sequel for next gen of these games? I don't see why not.
And so what we were talking about earlier on in the show with Obsidian not having too many games in development, Grey Monad said, isn't Obsidian employing more devs to create a new team? Yes, they are. So possibly that new team is to attack Fallout. Could very well be.
Look at Horizon, right? And you look at the Decima engine we were talking about. They probably took inspiration when you look at that where you can kind of put up, press the button and see your objective. That came from Death Stranding. So, people learn stuff from what you can do. And Kojima most likely said, hey, let me teach you some stuff that we learned. And they probably learned that from Kojima.
Absolutely possible. Look, let's move on to the Legendary editions though as well, because we're going to talk about that. Look, what do we see those being developed in? Obviously, UE5 will definitely be Gears. You would imagine that Fallout and Gears. And me and Pete had a really interesting conversation about this. Pete's of the mind that, I don't want to speak for Pete, but of the mind that he would like to see a new IP and not put development staff on Legendary editions. Look, I personally would like to go back and play Gears 1 in UE5. I love Marcus Phoenix. Miss Marcus Phoenix. I wish they would bring him back for 6. Fallout, not too worried about. But, Jack, I mean, are you interested in seeing them do Legendary editions of Gears and Fallout?
Definitely. I think there's a lot. So Gears being a sort of more linear experience, and they redid the first one and all of that, and or at least sort of touched it up, repackaged it. And I thought that was great. But to be honest, and I hate to say it, I think I got to agree with Pete on this one. I think in part measure, because I think Fallout is definitely a different beast, just because of how expansive it is. And, those open world games, usually one of the big things they're held down by is, one of the sort of the X marks in the category is that graphical fidelity, because it's so much more of an endeavor to process and render a world that big and expansive and open-ended. So I think I would very much like to see Fallout get that treatment. I think Gears is great, but I think it's time for Gears 6. So I got to go with Pete. I think, at least with Fallout, I'd like to see it touched up. I'd like to see some makeup put on it.
Quick question on that. And this is my point. With Microsoft acquiring Activision Blizzard, there's 17 support studios within that umbrella. And that's not a hard thing to take some of those studios and put them purely on remastering, and so you don't lose. Those studios are set up to support. They're not set up to create games. I'm sure that they could, right? I'm sure that they could definitely do it, but that would need some rejigging of the studio. So with those studios set up to do that, and we don't lose any IPs or any new IPs, and we don't lose anything from outside, would you still be slightly? It sounds like you're slightly leaning to the negative for the Legendary remasters. Would you be interested in seeing them if it doesn't affect any of Microsoft's first-party games?
Yeah, it's. I don't even think necessarily that if you got them. My contention is not that they would affect first-party games or sort of hinder development. I think it's just time to progress. I don't think they're not atrophying progress. I think it's just the absence of development of the next stage. So, and maybe the verbiage is a little confusing on that. I guess, I mean, with 17 extra studios, there's a lot of developmental muscle to sort of be shifted around, and like you said, I mean, that's why they exist, you know, is to sort of logistically lend, you know, support to these other development teams and to get these games on a quality that, you know, and time frame that we as the consumers, as the gamers themselves expect. I guess, like, I'm not intrinsically opposed to it. It's more of like a coin flip. I just kind of hope it lands heads and we get something new. I wouldn't be disappointed by it. It's something I would definitely play. I love Gears of War. I think that was a fantastic franchise. Still is. 5 was an absolute triumph across the board. I think we can all agree on that. There's a lot of places to go after that too. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Even so, I'd still rather see something new, but I wouldn't be, you know, inherently disappointed if I got a Gears rematch. You know what I mean? My fundamental opinion, and I've said this on Twitter, and I think you guys have seen it, is that first-party studios should not be turning out remasters in 2022.
Well,
and
remember
that's my point, Jack. Yep.
But Bethesda's opening a studio called Artifact that's supposed to be strictly for remastering games.
Yeah. Well,
so my thing is,
if you have like a dedicated like a Blue Point type deal, and you're going to use Artifact, that's a little bit of a different ball. I mean, it's still the same idea in principle because it's still a first party studio, right?
It's still going to need to collaborate as well, and that collaboration is going to take time away from whatever new IP they're doing. Sorry, mate.
Oh no, go for it. No. I was just.
I was going to say that they have FPS boost. They have auto HDR. These games have been boosted. Yes, it's not a full-on remaster, but you can go back and play these games in 60 now with auto HDR, and they're great.
Jedi, look at what Sony's probably doing. The rumored Last of Us after being remastered, like I don't know how many times, but I agree that at some point a new generation of gamers are here, and similar to Resident Evil 2, which was amazing, maybe we can get a Gears remaster, right? With the new UE5, controls better, and maybe some of the new ideas that are being implemented when it comes to movement can be implemented into these new remasters. And now those critical 3 stories of, you know, Dom, Marcus, and the rest of the crew, they can be retold, Kate, and of course Kate. And then, because here's the thing, a lot of people weren't as receptive before. So build the hype, bring back the old trilogy, and now looking much crisp. And that builds hype into 6. And I don't think it's going to take away from anything because the game is there, similar to Blue Point. And they just have to basically make it look nice here and there. And that's about it. I don't think that's going to take away from the fact that the coalition is going to work because just like Blue Point, they're just restoring something that was already there. So it's not like they're reinventing the Gears storyline or anything like that.
I think
if they repackage it just like a Halo Master Chief, I'm not against the fact. I would love it. Gears is one of my favorite franchises of all time. You know, if they were able to do that and at the same time learn Unreal Engine, I just don't. I want to see new IPs, you know?
Right.
Like, it's been long enough. I want the Coalition to move outside of Gears. I want to see what they're capable of. I want to see what...
But don't they have that small game, Peter? That small game that we don't know yet?
Yes, that's exactly right. And that's like they helped with the Matrix. To learn Unreal Engine 5, and they're supposedly working on this Untitled game, which is also helping them learn Unreal Engine 5, and that's all well and good, and I heard that they're also building out their studio, but I want to see where they go from Gears 6, of course. I want the continuation of the Kate saga. I think that story is going to be absolutely magnificent, but I also want to see them do a new IP. Like, let's face it, the Coalition are the best. Best at Unreal Engine 5 and
I will agree there. Yeah, I will agree with you there. I do want to see them flex their muscles outside of Gears. I guess the same could be said for 343, but that'll never happen. But I do get where you're coming from with that. But before you go, Jack, I just want to say, as Great pointed out in the chat, Great Monad, pointed out, he said, what if they do a remake and not a remaster? Would that matter more to you guys? Because absolutely, I can say yes for me.
The problem is I gotta go with Pete still, because the problem for me fundamentally is this, and I think it's very cut and dry. The year is 2022. Okay, these consoles have been out for what about 2 years now? So they've been out for 2 years. We're 2 years into this current generation, and we're playing games from whether they're remastered, remade, what have you. We're playing last generation games, and I fundamentally believe that anything that anchors, I'm not just saying, you obviously don't forget great games like Gears and all these other games.
What about games like Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3? Those games
Resident
are
Evil 2 was
absolutely
done
amazing.
great, but I have been a
and
critic of
they're great.
Sony with constantly doing these remasters. Especially, I think they're talking about doing a remaster of The Last of Us 2 or something like that. Game was just out. That is just insanity.
Yeah,
and I don't want to see Microsoft going that way. I really don't. And then if we're going that way, what are we going to do? A COD remaster? How many games are going to be involved in that? How much time? I don't want to see them go down this road. I want to see new IPs. I want to see new ideas. These new consoles, they just haven't been touched. Let's see some new ideas out there. Game Pass allows new ideas to flourish. Because and the fact that they're under Microsoft's banner now and that money, and they have, they don't need to use old existing IPs because these new games can be tried because of the money backing them through Microsoft, and the fact that they're in Game Pass and people get to try them out.
Yeah,
I feel with the remakes is that it traps us in last gen. It just traps us. Sort of. They might be phenomenally well. I think the best remake ever made, in my opinion, was Mass Effect. I thought Legendary was amazing in every respect. I loved that. I loved what they did with it. I loved Alan Wake was fantastic. Demon Souls was great. Don't get me wrong. I think, though, that we are now in a next gen. What we should call a current gen. The fact that we're 2 years in and still calling it next gen when it's been current for 2 years, I think speaks to that. So I think it is time for us to embrace that we are in a new generation, and that should entail more, creative liberties being taken, and we should get the new IPs. And I think that ultimately should be the focus. And I think, as great as they can be done, I think anytime you take a step back to refine what's been had rather than progress, I'm not saying it's awful, but it does detract from advancing further into this generation, and I don't think that's why we spent $500 or in Australia for you like $8,000.
Can I ask the panel question? I think you guys brought a good point, but what if some of these amazing IPs that they're thinking about bringing back? I think JediKnightPete and everyone here talked about Game Pass. What if you have these top titles that are part of Xbox history that are more modernized and at the same time become even more enticing?
Are we talking like Jet Set, or are we talking?
No. I'm talking about Gears. I'm talking about on the
That's
Xbox that are
that's
first
why
party.
I
Classic
mentioned
games,
Auto
content.
HDR. That's why I mentioned FPS boost. That's what these systems are employed to do. And Microsoft spent a lot of time, resources, and a lot of technical ability to implement these systems. And they are amazing. And at the end of the day, the story, the gameplay in these games is fantastic. They do still stand the test of time.
And where I'm going at, Peter, is I love playing the old Resident Evil games, as terrible controllers they were, or I like watching an old movie and then watching the new, and then watching, of course, if it's good, the remaster. And that's where I'm getting at. Yes, you can still have the legacy if you want to go back to how they were, but then maybe bring something that's, more modernized so we can enjoy it. And I agree, I do want more new IPs. I want new ideas. I want to see some of the games. I mean, I'm waiting for Redfall, which is one of my top games right now. So
absolutely, that kind of moves us into our next topic, man. I think we can put that one to bed. There's a few of us against it, some of the community against it, some of the community with. Look, personally, I want to see new IPs, and I would like to see remakes, not remasters. I definitely don't want to see a repeat of GTA, San Andreas, and those remasters are just
remakes, not remasters. Yeah. How about that?
Exactly. Yeah. I'd like to see remakes.
Okay.
And with 17 studios, plus the other support studios they have for the Bethesda, and they have just throughout Microsoft now, there's no reason that it should take away from the new IPs. But maybe it is.
Look, we'll see how Dead Space goes. We'll see how Coda goes. Then maybe I'll be more open to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, this leads into our next topic that I personally wanted to talk about, because there's a lot of discourse in the community right now, especially with the release of Horizon Forbidden West. I constantly do that. Where's Xbox? We haven't heard much from Xbox at all. They've been extremely quiet. Yes, Doovie, in the chat, you ask who's gaming in the background. It is me. Yes, I am bad. Look, the community is getting restless. Redfall, as you guys mentioned, it's 4 months out, so we should see something very, very soon. They slated it for release in summer of 2022.
Delay notice.
Yeah,
that's what we're gonna see.
So look, what's going on behind the scenes? But look, the Stalker 2 delay hurt the Xbox, I think, with having titles or exclusive titles releasing. Do we need exclusive titles? Really, there's so much dropping third party. I mean, Elden Ring's gonna take up at least 3 months. Look, do we need to see something from Xbox? Do we need a response to Horizon Zero Dawn? Forbidden West? I personally don't think so. I don't think there needs to be a response. I think everyone just needs to calm down. We just got Halo. That was only 3 months ago. We just got Forza 5. That was only 4 months ago. Those games are multiplayer. They have a life that goes for years. There's no reason for us to panic. Oh my God, PlayStation's got a game! Like, there's no need for that. Like, it's one game. They got a game. Great. Like, if you've got a PlayStation, play it. If you haven't, like, don't worry about it. But I am so in that regard. Look, we don't need to put anything out. But what I am concerned about, I wouldn't even say concerned. But what I am wondering about, questioning as to why Xbox has been so quiet when they were so vocal in 2021, all the way through. Even though they didn't have first-party releases early 2021, they let us know what was coming. And I think it's time to start letting us know now when it's coming, when we can expect to see these games. Joanna Dark, do you feel that Xbox needs to give us some more details, give us something to be excited about coming in the future?
I mean, yeah, we haven't had any big titles since Halo, but I feel that, when I look at the template, right, and let's go back to next gen, PlayStation lived off of third-party titles until finally that had that year where it was just banger after banger after banger. And when I look at this is that you got to take into account, right? Acquisitions. These studios were just starting to make game, a pandemic, and everyone feels it. And I do think that I would love to see more. I would more of an update. And I think that we shouldn't have to wait for E3. I would like more of a bite-size shows where we can get maybe some updates on some of these games. I think we used to have Inside Xbox, and I think that show was more about pre-existing games and about stuff coming to Game Pass. So I would love to see what we have maybe in the pipeline down the road, and maybe have these bite-sized shows that focus on some of the upcoming titles. That's one of the things I love about Nintendo Directs, is that I get my indie direct, then I get the ones from Nintendo that give me updates on upcoming games. And yeah, you're right, there's a lot of question marks, right? Redfall, supposedly summer, but then supposedly it might slip later into the year from all the rumors. But I would love an update. The last time we saw Redfall was just a trailer, and then those leaked images that we don't even know if they're real. So I guess I would love something on there, but we also have to be patient, because it's kind of them if you do and if you don't. Because if you think about it, right, every time they show a video, then we have certain people zooming in 400 and criticizing developers, that sometimes maybe developers are afraid to show their work because it's scrutinized by certain fanboys on social media, and it's a disservice to them. So what's the point of showing you something that may not shine the light? And as some of avid gamers ourselves, we can be very critical about that. So I think if it's not ready to show, similar to what happened with Halo Infinite, I'd rather they continue to keep it under the wraps, for when they finally show it to us, we get something that we're like, oh wow, this looks amazing, I can't wait to play it. And it's like, hey, guess what? You get to play it 3 months from now.
Oh, but there's nothing stopping them from giving us a dev diary, giving us an update, giving us something so we know what's going on.
I mean, here's my thing about those. I think I would love to see an improvement on that end in how we market our games. I think I was talking with Boom, and I think on the XBI, that I love the way when I'm gonna play a Sony game, I know exactly what it is. I like how they break them down. You get the technical dive from a Sony thing, you get a trailer technical dive, and then you kind of get these tidbits of gameplay. And same thing with Nintendo, and I would love to see some of those ideas taken and put in their own spin on it, their own Xbox spin to it, to kind of show us some of those games.
Yeah, look, absolutely. Look, we've seen a little bit of Hellblade. That was something. But really, we haven't heard anything about Fable. We haven't heard anything about Redfall. We haven't heard anything about Avowed. These are games that were shown in
Perfect Dark.
Dark. We haven't seen anything from Perfect. These are games that were shown in some of them 2019, some of them 2020. It's been 2 years. What's going on? Like, I want to know. Fable, it's coming in 2025. Thank you. Like, I just want to know when these games are coming, so I could, in your head, just so you can get excited for that time. I'm not saying give us a gameplay trailer. Umbra, do you think that they're being a little bit tight-lipped about what's going on?
It does feel that way. I think it's just because, I think it is a bit of that what have you done for me lately syndrome we've talked about, right? And then you see Sony having had I almost said Fishu. Fishu was so damn good. No,
seafood.
I think you've died too much in seafood, brother.
I like me so bad. I forgot the name of it, but yeah, seafood, which I still have to finish. Seafood, and then they had, which rated well and deservedly so. And then they had, of course, now Horizon Forbidden West. And you have those two back to back like that. It does start to feel like, wait a minute. As an Xbox gamer, like, wait a minute, where are our releases at then? Even though we just had Horizon 5, and then and then of course Halo. So we kind of overlooked that.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. We overlook those things because, like, well, that was last year. We get into that mindset, but I'm of the mind of two different people. It is funny for me. I'm more of a calm kind of guy because I have so many games that I still have yet to actually play that I own.
Backlog, right?
That I'm not so much worried about it. Exactly. My backlog is insane. So like Steph pointed out, first party isn't the only thing I need to play. So it's not like, I gotta have a first party game. I gotta have it. So I'm like him when it comes to that, but I'm also like Shizno, like Elite, where he points out that they have to give us a reason to be excited for the rest of the year. So I think both are important. And as Green Monad pointed out, JS says that the Xbox is going to have a massive, or doing a showcase next month, and I believe that. The one thing I'll give them credit for, and Joanna, I know you're in the understanding of this as well, is that Microsoft listens and they pay attention to what we say.
They read the community better than anyone else.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. No, unquestionably the best when it comes to that. So I know that Phil is hearing us. I know that the team is hearing us on that. So we're going to see something sooner than later.
Yeah, well,
and that's the good thing, because we will say something and they will listen to it. But I'm of the mind, just to wrap it up really quick for me, is that I think they need to show us something to be excited for the rest of the year. I absolutely do agree. Just to kind of settle down those who are like getting antsy. But at the same time, I can personally absolutely wait for those good things to come. And I think 2023 is going to be that onslaught of great back-to-back games, personally.
And onwards after that.
I think you made some really good points there, Umbra, especially about that third-party, like those third-party titles coming, and I think it was
I wanted to say, Risket, that
Yeah.
the first half of last year was very similar to this, wasn't it? Where we really didn't have much, and then we got banger after banger. We got, Microsoft Flight Sim, Psychonauts 2, Death's Door, Halo, Horizon 5. So, and it looks like a very similar roadmap this year. But what they did last year is they dropped Outriders smack bang in that time period. It's that massive third-party deal to get everybody talking about Game Pass. And I would love something like that. If we don't get something like that, then I just want to see a roadmap. I want to see what's coming. I want to see when Plague's Tale is hitting, Scorn's hitting. Stalker's not coming now. It's as simple as that. What's going. It's not coming now.
Yeah.
But there are other games. There
you have
as well.
Atomic Heart.
Redfall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look, that's the other thing.
Tunic's coming next month.
it's-
I know it's only a small game, but it's going to be really
But
good.
it's not just the first party titles that you're going to play. And I couldn't give two flying fucks if people on another system can play a game. There's so much coming, like, it's ridiculous. There's Evil Dead's coming. You've got Tiny Tina's Wonderland coming. You've got Saints Row apparently coming. I can't really see that. You've got Gollum coming. You've got Plague's Tale. You've got Gotham Knights coming. There's supposedly Suicide Squad at the end of the year. I reckon that will see another delay. Shadow Warriors coming in a couple of months. We'll talk about that on the PlayStation in a minute. Like you said, Atomic Heart. There's so much coming. that like I think, like you said, Pete, they did have Outriders, but I think that Stalker 2 was that for them. And with this unfortunate situation, this bullshit that's going on over there, unfortunately, that's probably hurt that game coming this year at all. But we will talk about that later. Jack,
Total War just dropped. It got 9 out of 10. I know it's a PC game, but it dropped onto Game Pass day one. 9 out of 10. You know, if you like those type of games, it's an amazing game. Not many people are talking about it, but if you have Game Pass on the PC, I mean, I would highly recommend it. 9 out of 10. So
yeah, Total War was great. I play it. I think the issue is this, though. I think a lot of I don't want to say a lot of people, but I think we might be overlooking. You need to push Game Pass. You need to push Game Pass as a more expansive, creative competitor to what PlayStation is pushing. And I think this has been, and even coming up. I mean, if you look at PlayStation, right? So I think you go back to the 28th of January. It kind of started, and that was the Uncharted remaster, right? I mean, it's something. I'm not a fan, but it's something.
No, it's nothing. It's nothing. It's basically FPS boost and the 4K that everyone gets for free on Xbox.
I played it for 20 minutes and haven't touched it since. It was $50 down the shitter, so I'll take that up with the concerned parties later. But I mean, if you look at PlayStation, you've got that. You've got Horizon, Gran Turismo. A lot of people are forgetting. In a month, Ghostwire Tokyo's coming out. Now, granted, that's also a Bethesda, so I understand that that's from Tango. But you're looking at a narrative now where PlayStation's like, hey, man, every 3 weeks we're giving you something. Now, that might only be true for 2.5 months. I understand that. But when you look at 2.5 months, that's still like 15% of the calendar year.
Yeah, but why does that matter, Jack?
Yeah.
Because
you have to push Game Pass. So the Xbox's success, right, and I think we can all agree on this, is entirely predicated upon the financial viability and sort of the popular proliferation of Game Pass as a service, right? We all agree on that. You need to there has to be something that continually sets Game Pass aside. Now, all of us can see that because we can see the value in the great titles, and we've seen the little headers where there's like 40 games coming out, where it says Xbox. We've all seen that with little, slides of, the main characters of each. But I mean, we're looking now. I mean, it's different. The release for Redfall, which I'm super excited about because I love looter shooters. That's nebulous at best. I think you're absolutely right with Stalker. I mean, we're going to lose that because of a geopolitical situation in Eastern Europe. I mean, you're looking at all these delays, and I think it's just kind of starting to add up. At least it is for me. I think Microsoft, and I think that press conference or the event they're going to do is going to be fantastic in remedying this, provided that they execute it properly. I'm fairly.
Are you going to cancel your Game Pass subscription?
Oh, not a snowball's chance in hell. I'd rather sell my kid.
Yeah, it's become the Netflix where you just pay it without even realizing it, hasn't it?
Well, that's exactly my point, though. Like, it's there's so much on there for you to play and to have and to bring people in, Jack. Right. That I don't think that they don't need to have bangers every month. I think you're right. They probably need to do a few more third-party deals. Like, that's 110% like on the money. Bring some third parties in.
Do you guys think that Gotham Knights will come to Game Pass day one?
I do.
I think it might. Yeah, I think it might.
Be nice if they got it.
That would speak to our greatest hopes about Warner Brothers games. I think we would all be very optimistic about that.
Absolutely.
I think the one thing I feel like I'm locking horns with you on every point. I'm so sorry, Biscuit.
Thanks for a great show. I love it.
Yeah, I know, right? I get to get better. I come in and I just bug everything up.
I'll see you behind the bike racks, mate, after the show.
Yeah, all right, bring it on. All right, I got you. 3:00 at the flagpole, asshole. But so what I was saying though is it's not about me canceling my Game Pass. It's not. None of us are going to cancel Game Pass, right? Because we love Game Pass, and quite frankly, it's very difficult to deny, not only the content but especially the value proposition you get with Game Pass. It's not about but people still need to subscribe to Game Pass. You still need to put a new game on a Happy Meal box to get that kid excited. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it's so much about you or me canceling, because I have Ultimate, and I didn't touch PC for 4 months, until Warhammer came out. But there does need to be some sort of new impetus that is marketed in order to draw more people to Game Pass. Because as great as we see it is, are we not all fundamentally shocked when our neighbors haven't heard of it, don't know what it is?
Yeah,
Like
well, Shizno Elite kind of agrees, I think, with your point here. He says at some point Xbox needs to be able to get big games out that aren't Halo, Forza, and Gears. Look, and I completely agree with that. That's been the issue with Xbox. We've got lots of stuff on the way. It's coming, but when is it coming? So look, I agree with that. I agree with that. There needs to be some more information at the very least, and some third-party titles put into Game Pass to obviously feed the beast. You've got to be constantly feeding the beast.
Right.
Risk it. Could we say the same thing about Sony and kind of play devil's advocate? Think about it. PS5, Miles Morales, which was just already, an add, whatever you want to call it, add-on.
DLC.
You got Demon Souls, right? A remake of a PS3. You got a sequel in Horizon, a sequel. Assets are there already. And then you got Uncharted. Then you got Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut. Then you got Death Stranding Director's Cut. Besides stuff like Sifu and some little indie games that might have come to that platform, they're kind of neck to neck in the same, if you want to talk about, hey, where's the new content? Because we at least got the next installment of Halo. We got a new Forza. Of course, established franchises. So I also think it's like a game of chess, right? Why are you going to show your cards right away when the competition may be just trying to, keep up with the Game Pass? And then, like people have said, 2020, I think after this year, 2023, we're going to be talking on shows, hey, can you stop releasing games? Because we have no time.
Well, that was last year. It was last year, literally talking to Game Pass backwards and forwards. They were actually responding, which is why they're great with the community. I was like, please stop releasing games into Game Pass. I've got a question from one of the guys in the chat, though, that I've got to ask the panel. If you guys want to ask a question in the chat, type question in front of your question, and it will highlight it to me, and I will ask the panel. It's a poor man's super chat. With all these delays because of working conditions, how does Xbox show games without getting crucified when what they show gets delayed? Joanna, do you think it's a bit of a fine line to walk, especially after Scalebound, the way that deal went down? Not only delayed, but cancelled. Is it once bitten, twice shy that they hold back on showing this stuff until they are 100% that it is going to land when they say it's going to land?
I think there should be, like I was saying before, I would love to see a little bit of change. I think if the game is ready to show it. I don't think you should be holding on. That's one of the things that I wish that we did differently, because it's kind of a antiquated kind of way of showing games, kind of just like, hey, let me show you when it finally releases. I hated the fact that when they showed multiplayer of Gears of War 5 only, and I was like, well, where's the single player campaign? I wanted to see some of the stuff of the single player campaign. I think things are getting better little by little, and things are going in a positive direction. I'm talking about the world. So hopefully, as things get back to normal and some of these teams can kind of go back to work in the office space, there'll be something to show. I just think right now, we're all under this thing where, yes, we see the other platform and people that are playing on the other platform have a game, and us as Xbox, enthusiasts, we also want to have a game to be like, hey, you know what? This is the game I want to play and be excited about this month on my platform.
Joe, are you one of those people that would just like CG trailers, or when you see the game, even for the first time, do you want it to be gameplay?
I mean, my thing is, I don't mind a CG trailer as a hype trailer, but I do also, the next time I see a game, I do want to see the gameplay, and I want to see exactly what I'm going to be playing, because a CG trailer doesn't do much to me the second time because it's just a movie.
Yeah, look, I'd agree with that.
I think that's definitely the case with Redfall, isn't it? I mean,
I think most of us agree with that.
Coming out, and
I mean,
don't even know what
I'll say this,
is.
right? When I first saw The Last of Us, right, the original one, cool. I was like, okay, cool. This is coming out. This looks really cool. Then when I finally saw the follow-up, I already knew why I was gonna love this game, because I already understood, and that's what I want as well. Give us Redfall, cool. You give us a CG trailer. The next time you show us Redfall, give us an in-depth look at the gameplay so we can know exactly how is it gonna play. Is it gonna play like the Borderlands that they're saying it's gonna be with vampires? That's what I want to see. I don't want to see something mixed with CG and game. I want to see full gameplay.
Yeah. I think that will be the case. I think that will be the case for it, to be fair. And Bethesda, they're notorious for showing their games like months out. So I don't think there's any worry there. But I'm still of the mind that since we haven't heard really anything about Redfall, I'm not so sure it'll be releasing in the summer as they talked about. Maybe a little delay.
Well, I think Jez said that it might be pushed into the holiday, so that might be a holiday game, if anything.
Mm-hmm. So
the
we're gonna have
holiday season for Xbox is going to be massive.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we got Starfield, Redfall.
I would say Redfall, if it misses its summer, right? If you think summer's a little bit stretched out, a late September game would be good. And at that point, would I put it up against something like Starfield? Maybe not. Maybe I hold on to it, and maybe there's something else.
Absolutely.
I mean, people are saying Contraband might be ready.
Yeah, that's what
I don't think Contraband will be ready for time this year.
And this is not what Xbox wants. Xbox wants a big AAA title to be dropping every 3 months, and unfortunately, what we've seen last year and this year, it seems to be going the same way, where all these releases are just being pushed into such a small window, and there's just no way we can play all these games. So they really need to be better about laying out their roadmap, spacing the actual releases so we have time to play these games, because they're too good to miss out on.
Yeah,
I agree.
I agree with that. Umbra?
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think Pete hit it on the head. I mean, we talked about it before, and I commented before in the past where we were talking about how they're planning on having the games ironed out. Like he said, a major AAA release at least every 3 months, every quarter, they said. So that's every 3 months for them, quarterly.
Yeah,
so absolutely.
The problem is we're playing now. I see. I agree. 2023 is going to be an amazing, from what we understand. Unless Cupertino, California gets hit with a nuclear weapon. But I wouldn't put it past at this point. But what I'm saying is that's all great for us to stand here and to talk. And I'm not trying to play pessimist here. I'm trying to play realist, but it comes down to there's people that play other consoles and other platforms that are playing great new games, and then we're just kind of left in the way. And I have a PS5 too. I know you would do as well. Risk it. We play on everything. But
I got a doorstop, man.
Yeah. Well, no, mine got some use since October. It's good. I think we sort of objectively, I do not think it's unfair for us to say that we have a right to be preoccupied with the here and now, and I think that it's disappointing, and I think there's a reason now, at least in my experience from all the times that I've been on this program, we seem to be talking about a lot of PlayStation games more than we typically do, and I think that speaks to a sort of there is a drought. I think cinematic trailers, they have to come out, because there's no way around just getting a cinematic trailer, right? That's how you start a game, and then 3, 4, 5, 6 months later, you get the gameplay. I think what absolutely needs to happen in this Xbox event is we need to see it. I'm talking, we need to see Redfall. We need to see, and they could be cinematic trailers, but we need to see something from even Everwild. We need to go that route. I think because there is the idea that we wouldn't have anything substantive, right, till summer, right, barring third-party shadow drops, which is always possible because Game Pass is amazing, till summer. So let's conservatively put that at June. Well, the difference between June and December is 6 months. I mean, that's since Halo, that's quite a time. And in that same time, you're looking at everything, from Kena all the way up to Ghostwire Tokyo so I think it's fair to be concerned. I think everything now is a bit nebulous, and I just think the radio silence is a little more detrimental, I think, than perhaps some of you guys are estimating.
Yeah, no, look, I would 110% agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. It's the radio silence that's the issue. It's not the fact that they are not releasing to me month after month after month, because that was never going to happen. These games take 3 years to make. They bought Bethesda. You're looking at 3 years that they were at the end of their IPs where they just released, and they've got another 3 years to put out games. It's going to happen. And then obviously you've got COVID. And there's some other things that could be affecting it as well. I mean, you've bought new studios, you're bringing them under your umbrella, and you want them to use the tools that are available on the Series X. That the GDK was in its infancy and is more mature now, and a lot more tools are available. And that feeds into our next topic. If you're just on the show, hit the like and subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, and that bell to know when we go live. Share it out with your friends, tell your grandma, tell your dad, tell your brother. get on and have a listen to Xbox Infinite. Our next topic is the VRS with Xbox. It's an extremely technical topic, but Xbox released a video at their conference that they have for developers. I forget the name of the conference. Just recently,
It's called GameStack.
GameStack. That's the one. And they did an extremely detailed 2 videos actually about VRS. Now, I personally am not that technically. I'm not a developer. Basically, if you're not a developer and you watch the video, there's going to be things you don't understand. But what it amounts to is that we should be seeing with the next first-party games and some third-party if they adopt it, a good for anywhere from a 10 to 15, 10 to 33% more performance just based on using the VRS shaders. Now, Pete, I know you watched this and understood a fair bit of it. What did you get out of the video?
I wouldn't say that I understood a fair bit of it. It is extremely technical, and it is basically made for developers. It's not made for the layman. But look, there was a couple of things that I got out of it. The first being that they said straight off the bat that uptake has been very slow, not just because the GDK wasn't there, but also because it's basically only a Microsoft thing. It's a DirectX 12 thing. And so uptake hasn't been very, as much as they had wanted and as much as they thought, because it's not going to be on PlayStation, and that does hinder them. And so therefore, I think first party is really going to have to step up and show what this is capable of for third party to move over and start using it more, and that is disappointing. So that was my first point. The other point is, wow, I can't wait for these tools to be used and for us to actually see the power of these consoles. What they're talking about is amazing. I mean, they're getting, massive advantages from, anywhere from 10 to 25% reduction in some cases, and you're getting these reductions in traditionally what are supposedly the most like motion blur, so where it's really difficult, so where you'd really see expensive effects like motion blur, depth of field, bloom, heat wave, clouds, atmospheric scattering, god rays, volumetric fog, shadows at dawn and dusk, lit particles, basically all the things that are very heavy on the GPU. The advantage is massive in these areas, and so when it's actually implemented, the amount of effects that they're going to be able to have on screen at the same time and not have a negative effect because of VRS is going to be amazing to see, I think. So Gears 5 used it, and they basically said when they had dynamic resolution on, when they implemented VRS, it went up from 83% of 4K all the way up to 92% of 4K, and that's, and you see the benefits mostly on finer details like Kate's hair or the fur on her armor. So the detail that we're going to get is just going to be great. Series S, unfortunately, doesn't benefit as much, and this was a little bit worrisome to me to hear. They said that they're basically, you're going to see more on the Series S in terms of graphics mode and not as much in frame rate, and that is a little bit worrisome. And Doom also said that they got overall a 5 to 10% increase for Doom Eternal in certain scenarios, and it was up to 20 to 25% of an increase which is, they said, very good, especially for a very well optimized last gen game. So I just want these tools to be used.
I mean, Doom Eternal and Gears 5 it was like a 33% boost in nanite performance for both of them.
Yep,
and
nanite was 33% boost. I forget to say that.
I think it was, if I recall, it was Gears 5. There's a lot of. In fact, I think this is the development of this, the implementation of these tools, I think, is ultimately what will really set the generation apart in terms of the console. I think this is an absolute. I think it's an absolute masterstroke for the Xbox's design vis-a-vis the competition, and I cannot envision a world wherein this is not deeply, and literally seen. I think this is going to have a very profound impact on when you look at a game on a PlayStation, when you look at a game on an Xbox. I think it's as this continues, you're going to see a marked difference in narratives. That's for sure.
Yeah, especially in those expensive effects that I was talking about, like motion blur and lit particle effects and volumetric fog and depth of field. There will be a marked benefit to Xbox consoles. And these things, I mean, they make games shine. So I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic.
A console generation doesn't go for just 1 to 2 years. And so I think we'll start to see these GDK tools being more obviously adopted within first party, but we'll see more of it in third party as well, because they're available to use. And if you can give yourself a 33% more headroom, and it's not just VRS that gives these consoles the full RDNA 2 feature set. And I'm not the biggest tech guy on the planet, but from what I can see, I'm pretty excited to see what they can do. I mean, they've got the velocity architecture that brings everything together. They've got Fidelity FX they've got access to, contrast adaptive sharpening, mesh shaders, direct machine learning, which works in consort with Fidelity FX and contrast adaptive sharpening and VRS.
FSR.
Yep, FSR. They've got VR is becoming pretty standard across all consoles as well. We're going to see some
features, if we're just being honest. I mean, really, it was a tweet earlier that pointed this out and pointed out all the things that the Xbox Series X has and S has that the PlayStation 5 just doesn't. And just to point out, by the way, because all of this tech babble does sound like, you know, like you're reading hieroglyphics or something for those who are not like into this like that. And I'm one of those who are not so well attuned to it. But just to give people an understanding, variable rate shading, VRS, is a way for developers to have greater control over the rendering of individual pixels that make up the image. So it allows them to focus more on whatever specific thing they focus on to give a higher resolution. So, and it'll take a load off the GPU, which allows it to look better too.
Yeah, so basically,
and like you pointed out with all those other things too. Sorry, go ahead, Pete.
I was going to say what the eye focuses on is where they'll improve that quality. So things in the background where the eye doesn't take the focus, they can reduce frame by frame, you know, with milliseconds of time. Basically reduce the resolution of things that are behind the screen that you're not going to see, and increase the resolution at things that the eye is going to focus on. And so people were worried that, you know, they're going to decrease the resolution. No, you won't see the resolution drop. Your eye will focus on, and it's all done in the background, and it's all done on a frame by frame basis. So it's incredibly smart technology. And they were very, very specific to point out that wherever they used it, they saw a benefit.
Absolutely. And the other thing that is traditionally done within games is if you have a room you're about to go into next, or a section of the game, that will be rendered before you get into there to stop load times. Well, you have load times. So when they load, say going down an elevator, and then you head into a section, all of that's rendered. And traditionally it was rendered at the resolution that you would see it in when you came into that section of the game. And now with VRS, what they can do is they can render sections of the game that you can see whilst having everything else half rendered. And then as you move through frame by frame, those sections that you leave become obviously drop in resolution, and the sections that you're coming into raise in resolution. That's really clever, and that's going to give them like a ridiculous amount of extra headroom to work with GPUs, and we're only going to see better games from it. I don't think there's anything to be worried about. And as you guys pointed out, PlayStation 5 just does not have that feature set, and I think the differences between the two consoles are going to become more and more stark as we go on through the generation.
So is anyone on the panel more technically minded than I am? Because I know PlayStation does have a form of VRS, but supposedly it's tier 1, whereas Xbox has tier 2. And I know we're getting into the more technical aspects of it, but can anyone go through that?
I believe from what I understand, and I'm not super technically minded, but from what I've understood is that the tier 1 is software based, and the tier 2 is a hardware baked in to the actual console based. Joanna Dark, do you have much technical knowledge when it comes to, I know you work for Microsoft but not in the technical area, but do you have any more technical knowledge about RDNA?
Not really. Not really in that sense. I think a lot of the stuff that you guys said are kind of some of the things I wanted to say. And I think overall, the way this is going to help, it's going to get we're going to get more out of our boxes. You know, we have a lot of these type of techniques, you know, NVIDIA with their DLSS. And, you know, I think when you were talking about resolution, yeah, I mean, rasterization of when you look at DLSS, right? Sometimes that image that's upscaled looks better than the actual native resolution. So overall, these type of tools and things that are being implemented are something that's going to be exciting, because now, you know, we were talking about the whole, you know, Elden, right? That it doesn't look that good. Imagine when some of these tools are there and maybe From Software can use it to kind of make the game look beautiful, but also still give us the experience that we're playing right now. So it's just exciting stuff that they're doing with these machines, and it just goes to show you that, wow, you know, for the price that we got these machines, the things that they're doing, and as we move into you know, as gaming is moving into a new type of, you know, era with a lot of things, it's great to see that there's things that are going to allow for these games to scale across different, you know, platforms
and be future-proofed.
I do think that Sony's and PlayStation's checkerboarding technique and dynamic resolution scaling is better than Xbox's, and I think that's why they're seeing a kind of benefit in some of these cross-generational games. And I think VRS and mesh shaders and all these other things that are yet to be implemented will bring them to parity and even exceed them in most cases. So yeah, really exciting times.
Yeah, checkerboarding, yeah, you're right. Absolutely. I do think they do checkerboarding much better. But it's old tech. That's old tech, and we're moving into the new tech. So I can't wait to see what they do with these games, especially when it comes to studios like the Coalition, like the Initiative. These guys are masters of their craft, even though we haven't seen anything from the Initiative. That studio is made up of some of the best developers in the game. We'll move on to our next topic, but before we do, if you just joined the show, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share it out. It really helps us out on the channel. And thank you everyone for being here. Mr. Pacino, Solid Sci-Fi, Crazy Lou Gaming, Gone Mad, his first time here. Fantastic to play with you the other day, man. I really enjoyed it, even though we couldn't get you into the game. Shizno Elite, who else have we got? Grum, Sourblow, it's C-Steph. It's Timmy, as always. It's not a podcast without Timmy.
Grey Monad.
Doovie, Grey Monad. All you guys, you power the show and you make this show what it is, and I really appreciate it. If you have a question, just type question before or inside your chat, and I will definitely get to it. Our next topic is COD being delayed for 1 year, which we talked about on the show almost as a certainty. We don't say anything for certain, obviously, but we were pretty sure as a collective group that COD would definitely be delayed, but probably not this early. It's been delayed by Activision. And they claim that the acquisition has nothing to do with the reasons that they've delayed the game. They cited the failure of COD Vanguard, which was the biggest selling game on PlayStation. Oh, no, sorry, second biggest selling game on PlayStation last year. So I think that's a little bit of a sidestep there. They also made mention of a new free-to-play title being assisted by Treyarch, which is one of the COD developers. Look, I think this is going to have a huge effect on the industry and what's released, how and when things are released, especially in that holiday period. I think we might see more developers targeting that holiday period, knowing that COD's not going to be there, knowing that Battlefield is definitely not going to have a new game coming out. So I think 2022 holiday is going to get targeted by even some AA developers, which they traditionally don't target because they know that they'll just get absolutely thrashed by COD. This is a great thing. I can't wait to see what they do with COD. Given another year worth of development, I think that COD's going to be. We're looking at another 2019 COD because that was a great release. Jack, are you think this is a good thing, or do you think this spells trouble?
No, I think it's a great thing. I remember probably a month and a half ago, I think we had it was brought up on the program, and I think from what I recall, at least from yourself, Jedi, and Umbra, who were definitely here, I think from what I recall, we were all universally in favor of kind of delaying Call of Duty with the intent of giving, Activision Blizzard sort of the time, the space, and the creative liberty that we would like them to have to potentially resurrect some other IPs or maybe explore, different directions, because we're so accustomed to Call of Duty. I have nothing against Call of Duty, but ultimately Call of Duty is a formulaic release, right? You're going to get it every year. You know what it's going to be. The only thing you're curious about what you're going to get is if you're going to get a jetpack or not. Like, that's the only sort of thing in Call of Duty that's really left up to your imagination, unless you're like me, you're a campaign junkie. But for the most part, the appeal of Call of Duty is the fact that it's a very successful multiplayer first-person shooter with a thriving online community. I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. I think particularly because all these other studios that are so consistently roped into just being Call of Duty factories. I mean, I think we're looking at so many other studios now with so many great IPs behind them. I would like to hope that perhaps they would sort of bring something back, explore new options. I think it's good to give people a little bit of a delay, especially because now you've got Warzone. Warzone's constantly evolving. If you really want your Call of Duty fix, you can go play Warzone because that'll be mildly fresh, even if standard multiplayer doesn't get like the map pack releases that, we kind of got accustomed to in the early Black Ops era. I think it's great. I hope that ultimately what this means is that a lot of these studios and developers that had sort of been chained to the Call of Duty franchise are sort of given a little bit more liberty to pursue other things, because Activision Blizzard is huge. I mean, it was a $70 billion purchase almost for a reason, and I think there's a lot of great potential there. There's a lot of IPs that have sort of deserved a sequel that have sort of been left by the wayside. I'm talking, True Crime, the War for Cybertron, things of that nature. So I'd love to see it, and I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I think it's a great thing. I think it's good.
Absolutely. Joe, are you a bit of a... look, me personally, I used to be a bit of a COD player. I've kind of dropped off the wayside in the last couple of years. But is this something that you'd be excited to see another year of development into?
No, I think this is great. I think this allows them to really flesh out. One of the things I used to love always playing is the Call of Duty campaigns. I'm not much of a multiplayer COD person when it comes to COD, but I definitely think that this extra time is going to allow them to really flesh out what they want to do. So in the sense of kind of giving that allure that we used to get when COD used to come out, we're like, okay, it's another COD, cool. It's going to be probably a cool campaign that I can just jump into for a couple of hours, and then let me get to the multiplayer. And it allows them to kind of also see, how shooters are kind of evolving and what mechanics maybe they want to bring to differentiate themselves from. And I just think overall for the devs, it's great, because putting everyone, knowing what we know right now and having all these people work every year to bring a COD out, that has to be exhausting. And we've also seen the fact that many of the CODs, the quality of the games are no longer what they used to be, what we were, attest to. So I think this is... I'm sorry?
Oh, I said precisely. I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah. So I just think it's great overall, and I'm excited to see what happens with this new COD. What new things they're going to implement. Will we get maybe a narrative that is maybe a step up than just a Michael Bay movie, which is nothing wrong with that. But like I said, overall, I like this move.
Absolutely. I mean, you've definitely hit on a great point there, which Shizno Elite said, I hope all those support studios will get to make whatever they want. I mean, does this mean that we'll be seeing new IPs from Raven Software, Sledgehammer Games, Toys for Bob, Beanox, these studios? I know Umbra, we talked about this earlier in the week.
Yeah, that's the thing we spoke on. We spoke on it a few times, and I'm absolutely excited for this because, I mean, we already spoke on it and saying that it will be biannual. Many of us already read up on it and knew that would possibly be the case, and now this confirms it. And I don't think it's any other way to look at it but as a positive. They're in no rush to put out a new Call of Duty. They have Warzone already out, which is going to be their sustained thing. And more time to give into quality studios like this is only going to have an end result on a great game at the end of the day. And like you guys pointed out in the chat, like Elite, is that the campaigns have largely been solid for Call of Duty. I'll give them their credit there. However, I hated Ghost, by the way. I just want to point that out. But other campaigns they've had have been great. So I'm actually looking forward to this being the case. And like you pointed out, too, that releases these other support studios, gives them time to go work on other things. There's no reason, and it's insane the wasted time that they've had with these quality studios working only on Call of Duty games. Like you pointed out, Risk, with Raven, you got Toys for Bob, you have not just, well, Treyarch, I guess, is more Call of Duty, but even they could be released to do something else. I mean, you have Moon Studios, B-Nox, you have all these quality studios that could do something, be it AA or AAA. So hopefully this does free them up to go and do other things. And like Jedi pointed out earlier, we can see a more of a steady flow of new IP come out of this. I think that's the positive thing I could see from it.
Absolutely.
Do you think
And we already are.
biannual from now on, or do you think this is a one-off?
I'd like to see it go biannual. And look, as you said,
I think it'll be permanent.
we've already got a new free-to-play title apparently coming. Jedi, are you excited to see what Treyarch, and I'm not sure of the other studio working on it, but what Treyarch can do on a new IP?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Treyarch have been stuck in the Call of Duty loop for, 15 years, 10 years? I would love to see what they can do. And not just them. Toys for Bob, B-Nox, especially Raven for me. I want to see what Raven can do. I'm not sure if Infinity Ward will ever get taken off it, to be honest. But, yeah, I mean, these are great studios with so much talent that have been stuck in the Call of Duty loop for so long. And, look, I get it. Call of Duty is pretty much the highest selling game year after year after year. But there are 10,000 employees and developers at Activision. Surely we can see more IPs coming out of it. I mean, basically the only other studio that I can see that are still making games is the team that are behind Diablo 4. Like, I mean, come on. Not just Blizzard, really. Like, yeah, I mean, so many talented people there, so many talented studios there. Yes, I know a lot of them are just support studios, but Raven's not, and they weren't in the past. Treyarch, incredibly talented. So yeah, I can't wait. I hope it goes biannual from now on. Not only will we get more polished Call of Duty games, which I think is really been lacking, it opens up the Call of Duty to you'll be more excited when a Call of Duty game actually drops, because it's not just this yearly cycle. And I think for the first time in a long time, people have been dropping in and out and not buying every single Call of Duty game when it comes out just because it's a Call of Duty game. So they'll look to see which developer's been making it. And I think, rightly so, I think Sledgehammer games have, people aren't buying them, and I think that's part of the reason why Vanguard didn't do so well this year.
Yeah, look, absolutely, and look, do you think, Pete, that this might be the beginning of the death rattles for COD? I mean, they might make another IP that overtakes COD. They've got the talent in the studios there to do it.
Definitely not. COD's been something special for a long time. There's a reason why it's something special. First-person shooter based on war will always sell. There'll always be the dude bros that play gaming. There'll always be those people that only play war games, and Call of Duty do it the best.
Dude.
The doctor disrespects.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's anybody with like a gaming chair and an industrial quantity of Mountain Dew Code Red, and there's a lot of them. So I think you're right.
Yeah.
Look, we'll move on from the COD delay to just very quickly, briefly touching on, because none of us on the panel has played Horizon Forbidden West. I don't think it's the cup of tea of any. I found the Zero Dawn as boring as batshit.
I love Forbidden West.
I love it too.
Well,
Yeah,
look,
I'm playing it.
How's it going?
Who's alley-ooping it out to you guys?
Yeah, so we'll throw this one out to Joe and Jack. One of you should just go first. What did you think of Horizon Forbidden West? Did it live up to your expectations? Is it the game that everyone is waiting for?
I think it does. If you played the first one, it's more of the story that people were waiting for, to see, where the journey of Aloy takes her next. And I think Guerrilla did a fantastic job in listening to the feedback of what people didn't like about the original. One of the things that put me off of the original was the pacing in the beginning, which I mentioned, where, I was about 6 or 8 hours into the game, and I get it was an origin story, but I felt it was just kind of too long for, to explain this whole story to me. And when I got to a part called Meridian, it's not a spoiler, it's just a part in the game. I felt that once you get past that specific part, the game took off. And like I say, Horizon is like Terminator to me. It's the story of Terminator with dinosaurs, which is pretty cool. And I think part 2 does a lot of things to eliminate the pacing. It does other things as well to, I know a lot of people may be open world fatigue, and I think Guerrilla's done a great job to kind of keep you engaged. So far, me personally, I have about 6 to 8 hours in. I love the side missions that are much better than just, hey, go get me this so you can get a bow, or go get a piece of fruit to craft something. It's more, learning about the people in the village and more kind of like building up the lore. I like the combat's a little bit more faster, the way Aloy moves. So overall, it's been a great experience, and I'm just excited to jump back in and find out where the story takes us now in the end.
Have you had many dramas with the bugs? Just before we move to you, Jack, have you seen many issues?
So I do agree with the fact of when you're jumping and trying to sometimes grab the ledges, those are some things that just I don't feel I don't think it's a bug. It's more like it's not as smooth as I thought it would be. The only issue I had, and I was saying it behind doors, is that I had one of my save files. I only made one manual one, and for some odd reason, even though I pay for cloud saves, I had my save file corrupted. So I had to restart the game, and unfortunately, but I did now in my second playthrough. I did miss some stuff, and I'm enjoying it, but that's the only issue that I've encountered on my end.
Jack, I know you've seen a few bugs on your end. How are you going with the game as a whole? And I mean, look, that bug to me, if it corrupted my save and deleted it, that would be a game over. That game would get put in the backlog, and maybe I'd come back to it.
I mean, it's only 6 hours. I mean, if it was like 20 hours or 15, I'd be like, yeah, I'm out.
yeah, that to me is even 6 hours. That would that'd do it for me. Jack, especially with...
No, you did say that when you did go and replay that 6 hours, that you actually enjoyed it more because you understood the game more. You got to do more of the side quests.
Correct. So I didn't go the 6 hours I had was not into going into what the Forbidden West, as they call it, right? It was literally in the first part of the game. I've been spending hours, leveling up, getting my weapons right, and discovering some of the side stories. And you're right, I did enjoy it because I got to learn more of the area that I'm in and some of the plot points and some of the people that are doing some things to the characters within the actual village. So yes, I'm having even a better time, and I think hey, I'm going to continue that. But Elden Ring, of course, is another one that's in my mind.
That suggests to me that it is a great game.
It is, and again, if you have a PlayStation and play it, it's a great game. I think it's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous game. I mean, I have my LG CX, and I was like, wow. And even the facial animations, which was another thing that detracted me from the first one, where they kind of had that Mass Effect Andromeda kind of zombie look.
Yeah.
That kind of took me out of the immersion. And sometimes I was like, just let me move on to this conversation. No, the facial details and just overall how the interaction, it's really good. So kudos and shout out to Guerrilla Games for doing a great job on this sequel.
Yeah, I'm happy that it's the people are enjoying it, and that it came out great overall. So definitely for that. I will say the first one was not my cup of tea. I do want to go back to it and fully go through it all the way to give it a full thought. But from what I did play, I was just like, I just found it boring overall, honestly, and a lot of things I didn't care for.
Critical path it and get past Meridian, and when you get to the mission after Meridian, where you have to go into like a section, in there, I guarantee you that's if you like it or not, the story will hook you, and you'll be like out, and you'll be literally just like, all right, let me get to the next story beat, because it's amazing.
I see. That's probably when it'll try to hook you. You're saying.
Is it one of those games that you've PlayStation games that you have to play for 5 hours before you can truly like?
The first one, and that's the problem with this one, is the first one. There was it just the pacing, but as a sequel, I got on and I was already hooked, because it just keeps giving you the beats over and over, and just never lets you go. And every moment to moment has been engaging thus far.
Okay, so do you need to play the first one to appreciate the second one?
Yes.
And is that a problem because the first one is so slow?
I mean, they do a recap. They give you an overall recap, but I can tell you, looking at that recap, I felt like I would have been robbed because I played this game last month before the release came in, and I made it. This was in January, and going into this one, some of the things that they tell you in the beginning, as you go after your recap and you're playing the game, you're like, oh yeah, I remember this. Okay, cool. So it does help, and I think you should play the first one if you can get past what I tell you that point.
Yeah,
that 5 hour mark.
The first, well, the first one is a very Sony-esque experience, right? It's cinematic, and you have 4 or 5 hours where, for whatever reason, they want you to acclimate to whatever's going to happen. It took me 3 times. I tried it first on PS4, and then I was like, okay, this isn't for me. Same as Umbra. I was like, this is just kind of stupid. Get my PS5 one day. I think it's because I don't know if it was on PSN or I had a download code or something, but I was like, all right, I'll give it a try, whatever. So, because I lost my original PSN account because I couldn't, get it back. So I started playing it. It takes a while. But the second one, Forbidden West, it's so much better, and I think it didn't reinvent the wheel. It changed just enough to address all the little nitpicky issues. Joanna was talking about facial animations. I remember them looking like they were made of silly putty at times. It was just really weird. The fast travel system in particular infuriated me in the last game. It's all been fixed. Item management, combat is both quicker and more fluid at the same time. The narrative is fantastic. I've got 40 hours into it, and I couldn't even tell you most of the main plot line because I'm just running around exploring stuff, doing side quests. Each individual side quest does not feel like a filler, like it's there just to exist, in and of itself. There's a purpose to it. These characters, they have personality. Their dialogue makes you resonate with them on one level or another. You genuinely want to help them. I think they've done a fantastic job, and all the graphics aside, which are fantastic. But I have had the bugs. I have had several bugs. I've had so many bugs. I posted a video on Twitter, and I think I'm at 40,000 views and about 700 death threats from PlayStation fans. So accusing me of fabricating it. So I've had a couple, actually. I've had what I can only attribute to a memory leak issue, where I was playing a PS5 game at about a half a frame a second, for about 40 minutes at one point, because I had to get to a bonfire. Yeah, and that took a while. The bonfire was in view the whole time to go save. So I'm looking at it for 15 minutes and half a frame a second. It's agonizing, yeah. I had another one where I've been crashed probably 4 or 5 times. Then in particular, one time after I crashed, I kept trying to reboot it up. Wasn't working. Had to restart my PS5. First time I restarted my PS5, still wasn't working. Restarted my PS5 a second time, started working. I've gotten messages that say that Sony cannot validate the license, so it wouldn't let me play because it's a digital download, and I bought it. So that's kind of, yeah. I
saw some people who had it that let out killed their PS5. Is that true?
Well, that's what I was getting to. Yeah. So this game it's weird because I love it so much I got to keep playing, right? But at the same time, PlayStation 5s are being bricked. And if you don't know what bricking is, it's being rendered as useful as a parking brick. That's essentially, it's what the Riskit uses his PS5 for, is a door prop.
To hold doors open.
Yeah, exactly.
Stop the car rolling down the driveway.
Yeah, exactly, but permanently. And so the way to fix that, apparently, I know they've patched it, but the way to fix that apparently is you not to go into rest mode on your PS4, which I always left it in, so it would auto update, anything that I had on it, whatever, it was convenient. But if you don't, when you quit the game, if you don't go back to the home screen after quitting the game to the main menu and manually close out the game, like hit start, close the application, all that, and then when you shut your PS5 off, if you don't put it in shutdown mode, if you put it in rest mode, which is what 90% of any game on a PS5 does, you can brick your console. So
this was an issue that was since launch that has been with the rest mode. I mean, I remember when I ordered my PS5 and I had I was fortunate that I had people that went through that unfortunate event. I literally turned off because I'm a big proponent of using that whole rest mode, especially with remote play. But yeah, I've turned it off because I've been afraid of my PlayStation brick.
Right, and that's what I've had to start doing.
I
So
thought they fixed that issue. and it just came back.
So why
with
haven't
this
they fixed that yet? Like, what's going on with that?
Yeah,
Why
I
has there
don't
been no
know.
patch?
I'm not a software designer.
Has there been
Couldn't
any?
tell you.
Has there been any feedback from the developers and or Sony about what the issue is and what they're doing about it?
Yeah,
I mean,
announcing patch 1.01 and then nothing.
I
That's just
think
what
the
it's-
problem is like JediKnight said that when you do give feedback about the game, I understand there's some people that want to just use it as a narrative, but when people actually want to say, hey, look, let me show you what's wrong, I think too many people get in their feelings and think that everything is perfect when it's not. And actually developers want that feedback, and it's unfortunate that it gets lost in all this kind of like console wars.
Yeah,
because they do want to fix the issues.
Constructive feedback they will listen
I
to.
agree.
If you get on their Twitter and start abusing them, then they're going to block you. So if you do give feedback about a game, that's helpful for developers, but just make sure you do it in a respectful way.
Yeah. Or go to their website, go to their website. They have a place that you can submit a ticket and give all the feedback. And all that time that you spent, trying to, fit a narrative, you can be doing that and saying, hey, look, here's the issues. Because at the end of the day, no developer or person that makes a game wants to make a bad game or wants to see their hard work just be out there in the wild, and it's terrible. They work so hard to make sure that you enjoyed it.
And some of them some
Well
of them will get a little bit sensitive. I did have a Halo developer block me. I was giving constructive feedback and asking questions, and I got blocked anyway. But that's after he has probably been trolled for. This is after the Halo release. He was probably trolled for months and months and months and just had enough. So look, don't go out there and troll the developers. They work hard on the games. They want them to be the best that they can be. And look, sometimes some things can't be helped. They don't have these issues until they get out into the wild. We got to move forward. If you just joined us, hit that like, hit that subscribe button, share it out amongst your friends. Tell your grandma, tell your brother, tell your dad. Let everyone know, tell your missus, come watch, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Dice Awards. Now, Phyllis Spencerus Maximus was given a Lifetime Achievement Award, and he's still alive, which is amazing. Like, you normally get those after you're dead, don't you? And so it's like half a Lifetime Achievement Award. And there's some notable wins this year. I'll pass it to the panel on what they think. It Takes Two took down 2 awards, but it took down the Game of the Year. I think that was pretty expected. That's a well-respected game. Achievement in Animation, Ratchet and Clank, and they got 4 other awards. They got Family Game of the Year and a couple more awards, which I found quite surprising. The Action Game of the Year was Halo Infinite, and the Adventure Game of the Year, which I think that, to me, the game of last year or the year, Guardians of the Galaxy. I really love that game. I'm still trying to get through that game. Elden Ring's going to slow me down there, but that game was absolute fire.
Guardians was great. I did enjoy it.
Yeah,
and I love that it got outstanding achievement in story.
Yeah, it didn't get enough.
Yeah.
It did not get enough praise, I think, and probably due to its 1080p resolution. But you honestly, look, you can tell if you look close, but just with the design of that game, you can't really tell that it's a 1080p game when you're moving through the world. It's just so beautiful. And look, Phil
One
Spencer...
thing that I didn't like is outstanding technical achievement went to Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. I would have given it to Microsoft Flight Simulator. I mean, I can't see how that didn't even get nominated.
How they
I
managed to get that on
understand how
Xbox One. Yeah.
I mean, here's my thing. That's a Ratchet and Clank. I guess I don't see how that game did anything. It was just the same game, just of course it's more modernized, but it wasn't anything that I would have gone Deathloop, I would have gone Returnal, so many other great games that came out. I don't know about that one. I'm sorry.
Psychonauts 2.
Psychonauts 2. Yeah, I just don't understand that.
Yeah,
I was like, I played Ratchet and Clank. I played it, and I was just like, there's this nothing that I've never played before.
Yeah,
from platforming.
Look, technically, I agree 110% with Pete, especially seeing as they managed to get Flight Sim running on the Xbox One. That is a technical achievement. That is like absolutely crazy using the cloud to get that thing run on Xbox One. Look, we won't dwell on this too long, but Phil, Pete's been running Microsoft. Phil gave a bit of a stirring speech. I don't know if any of you guys got to watch it, but it was extremely focused on culture, and it felt very directed towards the Blizzard and Activision acquisition. Look, and I feel that he probably had to do that. He probably didn't write his own speech. But I would have liked to see a more personal thing. As much as I love Phil, I would like to have seen a much more personal speech. Did you guys get a chance to watch it?
I did, yes.
I saw snippets. Yeah, I saw snippets of it. I actually saw the full thing of Todd Howard's presentation for him, or if you will. I thought that was really dope. And I saw a bit of Phil's. I haven't watched the whole thing, but I can check it out now while you guys talk, actually. Let me look at that up.
Yeah, Jack, what did you think of his speech?
Yeah, Lord Filius Sonius Decimatus, all hail. But no, I think I've got the utmost respect for Phil Spencer. I think now that it's become flagrantly clear that Game Pass was his brainchild and his brainchild alone, even with opposition from corporate leadership and his own team, so there's no taking that from him. That he really was the man of tomorrow yesterday, which is great. I agree with you. There did seem to be a sort of focus on culture and inclusivity, and those are the usual, bylines and, what you're going to get from somebody in that position and so closely affiliated with so large a corporation. That's just the talking point. But I agree with you. I did think a lot of it, hearing it, it sounded like it was designed to sort of ameliorate some of the hostility to Activision Blizzard, based on the allegations of misconduct there and a lot of the controversy surrounding Bobby Kotick, which we're not strangers to. I think it was a lot more humble, than it otherwise would have been. And I think that's always been sort of Phil Spencer's sort of force of persona. He is the guy that if you message him on Xbox Live, you got like a 2.5% chance of eventually getting like a, oh, thanks, bro, respond, like Xbox P3. He does seem like, the everyday, kind of guy. And I think he handled it with class, No, I mean, it would be difficult not to handle something like that with class, It's not the greatest accomplishment. But yeah, I think it was very down to earth. I think it was definitely targeted at a lot of these allegations and, the controversy around Activision Blizzard and particularly, Kotick himself. And I don't really think there was much more he could have said. He didn't use it as an opportunity to plug, Game Pass or to plug he just got up there and he, it seemed like everything he said sounded more or less almost humanly, believable. And I think it went down well. I watched it. A little minor clap. Well done, Phil. And then I went on to the next YouTube video.
Yeah, look, I think it was very focused on
the... I think it was a bit of corporate speak more than anything else. And I don't think... I mean, look, it's always a time and place for corporate speak. He is the head of Microsoft Gaming. But I would have liked a more personal story from Phil. I would have liked to have, heard how he got into gaming, how much he loves it, the fact that he's a true gamer, more along those lines. I think that would have hit home more, especially when you're receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award. In saying that, Phil can't do anything wrong in my eyes. He is Xbox.
He is the man who turned this ship around. He's the reason there is an Xbox still. So much respect to him. But as I said before, and as Pete was saying, I would just like to see something a little bit more personal from him. Just being the man and who he is. Yeah. But culture obviously is a massive, important thing for them to turn around within gaming. That is true. That is how he turned Xbox around. It's a little bit of
a buzzword now, but isn't it?
But he did turn Xbox around with culture. That is what he first focused on, and I think he's going to do wonders over at Activision. We'll move on, though, to something that's actually it's been glossed over, I think, by a lot of the media and not focused on, and it is absolutely huge. PlayStation have a day and date game. It is third party. It is PS4, but they are bringing Shadow Warrior 3 to PS Now, day and date. And listen, people out there, this is exactly how Game Pass started. Game Pass started with day and date third-party games, and they weren't the biggest, baddest things on the block. But they did. This is even bigger and badder than I think what Game Pass started with. I'd like to go back and have a look, but they started with a lot of third-party, tiny little indie games.
True.
So, look, PS Now has around about 48 million. A player base, and if they're going to shift that across to Spartacus, which it seems like they're going to, and PS Now will become a thing of the past because you can't run 3 subscription services. That's just not a feasible thing to do. I think that we'll see a lot more day and date happening on PC, and within, I think, third party to begin with, probably the next year or so of the first year of Spartacus. And then I think this is the signal bell of day and date first party games going to Spartacus. What do you think, Pete? Do you think this is the signal bell for day and date coming to? I know you did not think initially or in the past months that PlayStation would ever do day and date. What are your thoughts now with this happening?
Look, when we first started the podcast, that was my outlook. I really didn't think that they would do day and date, and then I recently changed my mind. I think the Activision Blizzard got changed the industry so much that I think that they really needed to. In terms of Shadow Warrior 3, this is a test case. Sony are testing the waters for day and date to see how successful it is. Everything we've heard from Xbox suggests that developers love it. Everybody loves it, basically. Everybody makes their money. So this is a test case. I would love to be a fly on the wall in one of Jim Ryan's meetings when they decided this. I think that the industry has to go this way. In saying that, PlayStation Now isn't available in Australia. It's not available in New Zealand. So, yes, they've got 48 million subscribers, but that player base can be grown substantially if they bring it to other places. And I also want to know, is it just going to be streaming still, or is it going to be, are you going to be able to download the game? Is that going to be for all games? There are still key questions that haven't been answered yet. And so that will determine whether or not Spartacus is successful or not, in my opinion.
Yeah, I will say this, it's interesting seeing the narratives, because there's always some narrative shifting on Twitter and on online in general when it comes to the PlayStation fanboys.
No.
So before, yeah, I just have to say it, because
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I have to say it. I'm sorry, because these guys trashed Game Pass for so long, and I've had them in spaces where I've even talked with them, and it's just, I'm not for subscription service, I'm not renting games, etc., right? And then these same guys I saw posting when the news dropped about Shadow Warrior 3 coming to it day and date. Oh man, I just might have to get on PSN, and I'm like, wait a minute, didn't you just write off Game Pass, even though they had first party day and date high rated games and third party coming to it? So
it is astounding how we're all welfare gamers, but the minute
absolutely,
we're all pirates.
The minute that Sony gets now it's free.
And welfare gaming, and the minute a third party game comes out on PlayStation 5, no less, using the last gen. I mean, it's everything on Game Pass. If you have a Series X, you get it automatically. You get the Series X version. PlayStation's like,
exactly.
We'll throw you something, but it's last week's lunch. Like it just, it's gonna be successful. Like when Risky was asking, will Spartacus be successful? Of course, it'll be successful, but it'll be successful for one reason only. As and Risky himself can attest to this. As people with PlayStation that have PS Plus and PS, I guess Risky probably doesn't have. What do you not have in Australia? Is it PSNow?
We don't have PSNow, but yeah, we got that. You've got to have the PS Plus so you can get online and save your games. You want to save your games,
right? So we have no alternative.
That's the crazy part. No save your cloud.
Yeah, they don't. We have no alternative if we play our PlayStations, but to subscribe to it. Now, will we get the most, rudimentary, gas station package available? Probably. That's probably what I'm gonna do. But it'll be successful because we have to have it. Game Pass.
I think
is successful.
Also to add to that, Jack, it'll be successful too because a lot of these Sony fanboys are die hard for Sony. So even if it's not up to their standards, even if it's something that's detrimental to them, they're still going to support
but
it.
Sony logo's on it, so they're gonna.
Exactly.
They're not wrong, brother.
Yeah, well, look, the tiers have reportedly been leaked, and it is coming soon. And what you are supposedly supposed to get is the first tier is PS Plus Essential at $10, and you'll get monthly games with that. There'll be PS Plus Extra with monthly games and a game catalog. So I'd say some back-pat stuff. PS3 is apparently. Oh no, PS3 is not included in that, and those aren't streaming apparently. And now the PS Plus Premium. You'll get monthly games, the game catalog of whatever they have or they're adding that month, streaming capabilities. You get classic games at PS3 and PS2, PS4, and then game demos. And the tier costs $10 for Essential, $13 for the Extra, and $16 for Premium. And as Grey Monad put down there, I had to put it up on screen, $16 for demos.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, demos. Remember, demos were free on PS2, PS3. Now you're paying for backwards compatibility behind the paywall. I just and you're not. I mean, and you're gonna get a PS4 version when Outriders came out, I could get the Series X for. I mean, it's just it's a fate accompli.
A thing that saying that this is going to be better than Game Pass because of that.
No,
this is the program that they have. This is what I mean. Like they will celebrate the silliest of things.
It's impressively inferior.
So the thing with PSNow right now, and I was discussing this with Mr. Badbit on our show on Wednesday, was that PSNow is a PlayStation 4 service as they've marketed it. So that's why we see some of these, and I agree that it is a litmus test to Spartacus. Maybe with Spartacus we since it's supposed to be a much more something different, a rebranding, we might see more instead of just seeing the PS4 version, the PS5. On the demo part, I was kind of thinking, right? Cyberpunk just came out and a 5-hour demo dropped on Game Pass. Yeah. And the way I was thinking about these demos, and I was just thinking it from a positive perspective, was, with games being $70, right? And people being kind of reluctant to jump into maybe some of these new franchises that might come down the road from Sony, this can be a way that someone can kind of take, a test drive of these games or whatever games that they might have. They put, whether it's a deal with some third party. And if they like it, just like you do on Game Pass, you save that money and then you purchase the game.
But Joe, these demos would have to be at least 6 hours long for you to know if you like them or not.
It depends. I mean, remember, here's the thing. Risk it. They did it with Death Stranding. And then they probably saw a nice uptick, whether it was in sales or stuff like that. And you're right. So depending on the game, if it's in JRPG, they can do what Square's been doing, where they give you the first 3 chapters. Like, I've been playing Triangle Strategy on the Switch, and that's the first 3 chapters of the game. That's pretty hefty. So, maybe you can get elements of the game. And again, we don't know, but I see this. You can also see it in a positive way, where what if they get a third-party demo to a game that you were maybe on the fence, and when you play, you're like, okay, this is awesome.
That would be good. I mean, that's a positive. I agree with you there, Joe. I mean, if they did that would be a solid.
And think about this.
Here's a question. Here's a question. Should that be in tier 1? Because you are trying to bring people in your ecosystem. You're trying to bring people to your games, and you're putting it behind the highest tiers paywall. That's ridiculous. It should be in tier 1, at least.
I agree.
I agree with the pricing, and I think whether this is a leak that went out there to kind of stealthily see how the sentiment of people, how they feel about it. I think that they need to reevaluate some of the things that are available within the tiers. And you're right, maybe that's something else that you can include demos into all the tiers, because why not? It's still a service, just because somebody doesn't want to go up to the highest tier. So again, we don't know. I would love to get more details about this so we can kind of discuss it even further and be like, I mean, some of those, backward compatible games, if it's some of Sony's best catalog, like give me Resistance, give me Infamous, give me Legend of Dragoon, and you give me a solid list, then it might, persuade me. I mean, I said it again, Nintendo, online, right? The expansion pass, I didn't buy it the first time. And the minute they said, hey, we're bringing Paper Mario, I dropped my money on there. I was one of the people that is the problem of giving Nintendo money, but I do think
Nintendo is actually worse at things than Sony, which is impressive enough when it comes to the anti-consumerism.
I mean, it's going to be great because now the people that are part of the Sony, that invest in the Sony brand, they're going to have a service that's somewhat similar. And one of the things that I'm seeing with this Spartacus is that they might not want to be one-to-one copy of what Game Pass is, but they want to take elements of Game Pass and they want to take elements of Nintendo Online, because remember, Sony does have a rich IP like Nintendo to an extent. So maybe they're looking at what Nintendo's doing and taking some of those elements. And one thing for sure is I do see hopefully date and date, and that I think will push a lot of people, because that's, I think, would be the biggest selling. Because if you're telling me to pay X amount of money, I definitely want your best titles day and date on a service.
And that's the thing too, because it's $70 a pop mostly for their games, at least first party. Yeah, absolutely having a demo of it. The thing is how long would those demos be? If they only give you like an hour or two, is that worth it?
So
That's
you know, I know we just made
10 to 12 hours. They're not going to give you 10 to 12 hours.
Well, we made a joke about movies.
What a
but
joke.
Death Stranding,
Right.
I think it gave you up to like the point where the game kind of opens up, and the prologue to Death Stranding, if you've played it, is pretty long. So
Yeah, I heard it's like 5 hours before you actually get to things.
Exactly. So if they're looking to do, and maybe if this kind of maturates into that, they're gonna be like, okay, cool, you're selling me demos at this high tier, so how are you gonna curate these demos to really give me a taste of what you're trying to sell me afterwards?
Right.
Yeah,
Well, I think the problem is the narrative is that if you have an Xbox, you're a motherless piece of shit because you rent games, and now they want, right, like that's it, right? But now they want to charge you not to rent games, right? Because they want to charge you for demos.
Yeah.
They want to charge you to try to rent a game. You know, like it's just, I don't know. I think
It doesn't.
I
It
think
doesn't sit well with me, man. It doesn't sit well with where it's sitting in the tiers. It should be tier 1. And look, we'll move on from.
I mean, hopefully the diehard PlayStation, influencers and people that cover PlayStation will be vocal about this if something is not right once we get the full details, so that maybe Sony can pivot and people kind of say, hey, look, we don't like this service as much as you want to, give it to us. We want to make sure that you're giving us more for what you're asking.
When have they
and
done that,
tomorrow
Joe?
I'll win the
Honestly.
lottery. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I know,
Exactly.
I understand, but hey, Horizon, no matter what you talk about, they went back on it, and I'm guessing if people start to be more vocal, you never know, man. It can happen, but you're right.
It's a
They
rare.
went back on it, but they were still ultra convoluted how they did it.
It is.
They
It
went
is.
back on it for sure, but I mean, in the slickest of ways.
Maybe it doesn't have to be the hardcores, because everybody will automatically put it up against Game Pass. Maybe there'll actually be casual articles, out in gaming circles that will change that narrative. I mean, I hope that happens.
So I mean, Doovie says in the chat there, he says it's a good way to wrap it up. So after all the cutscenes, the demo is over. Look, we'll move on.
Doovie's messy, man.
We'll move on to the next topic. Is one that I didn't have in the topics list, but we do have time to fit it in. Street Fighter 6, possibly coming to Game Pass, possibly not coming to Game Pass, and also the fact that they ripped their logo straight from not Paint Shop. Can't think of the name of the program they ripped it from. Premiere.
Adobe.
Adobe. They ripped their logo straight from a stock logo, which is lazy
It looked horrible.
marketing. The lazy marketing is unbelievable. But the other thing the only thing that I can say about this, and then I'll go to Umbra, is look, frankly, they didn't give us anything. They didn't give us any information about the game at all. They didn't tell us when it's coming. They didn't tell us what platforms it's going to be on. All we got was a super jacked Ryu, and that's pretty much it, and some other character that I don't know. So Umbra, what?
Ryu straight out of Gears of War.
Yeah. So Umbra,
No, that was Magic Mike Ryu. I kind of saw.
Yeah, there were very interesting Twitter comments about that man's lower appendages.
I'll go to Umbra on this one. What do you think of the reveal, mate? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I was excited for it because traditionally I've loved Street Fighter, right? So the problem, however, was how dirty they did us on the Xbox side of things with Part 4, or should I say Part 5? And so that left a bad taste in everyone's mouth. Them making it exclusive to PlayStation. The logo was absolutely terrible. When I saw it, I was like, why does it look like that? Like, that doesn't excite me. They need to go back to the classic style of it. I'm excited for it, but at the same time, I feel like, should I be too excited? Because I don't know. I don't know what they might pull. If they pulled that before, who's to say they might not do it again? And keep in mind, just so you all will know if you don't know, Special Nick, he spoke about this before, and he actually came back out to say it again, that he heard that there will be timed exclusivity for this. Maybe, like, who knows, a year out that we might have. Sony might have it for all we know with Street Fighter 6. So that to me is worrisome, and more of the reason why I would want Microsoft to outright buy Capcom, just to throw that out there. That other character, by the way, was Luke. His name is Luke. He was shown in Street Fighter 5 as DLC, and now he's going to be like one of their main character pushes for 6, from what I've been reading. But yeah, I'm worried about that because Special Nick spoke on this before, and it's not unprecedented to have them make that exclusive to PlayStation, right? So that's a bit
Smart
worrisome.
on Sony's part, because everybody knows that Microsoft's lacking in fighting games, and to take another one away would be incredibly smart.
It would be, and it would also be, I mean, it'll be dirty, but it'll be smart on the end. Also, they have the Evo that they bought too, so they can obviously parlay that into that too. It would be definitely a smart play on Sony's part. That's why I think Microsoft has to get more aggressive in stopping that type of stuff. Whether you make deals or not, they need to change that mindset of not making third-party deals.
Well, they can money hack. I mean, so money hacking is as much as people who are exclusively on Xbox right now. And I understand you, I feel your pain because that's my main console of choice too. As painful as that may be, when you look at a company like Sony that does not have that infinite money cheat on, like Microsoft does, money hacking and buying that timed exclusivity. I mean, and we would see things like that even with Call of Duty. It's something they can do where it's not an exclusive, right? But for all intents and purposes, nobody looks at it otherwise. Like, nobody's looking at Ghostwire Tokyo right now as a multi-plat game, even though it absolutely is. That's Xbox
Except
Game
if you're Microsoft
game.
and you do it to Tomb Raider, yeah?
Right,
Very,
exactly.
very good standard.
Right. And so I think it is a technique, I think, that works well for Sony because they do not have that economic leverage, that financial ammunition that Microsoft does to outright buy a studio. It works for them. You see that with a lot of things, like Final Fantasy is one of them. It would not surprise me. I think as much as people resent it, I do go to agree with Jedi again, and Umbra, who also said it. I think it's a winning play for Sony because they can't outright have it as an exclusive, but to Joe Public, there's no different. You know what I mean? And they can use that to their advantage. And to take a fighting game from a platform severely lacking in that genre like Xbox, I think, and to further solidify their dominance where those types of games are concerned, I think is a masterstroke. So I wouldn't be surprised if not only we see it now, but we keep continuing to see it. The same thing they started with Final Fantasy and Square Enix games and whatnot.
Yep. And just to add this to that before you go, Joe, I just wanted to say, people underestimate how detrimental money heading can be. I think it's actually worse than outright just buying out the company, because it definitely turns people away after so long to thinking that console is the only one that gets it. Look at PlayStation and what they did with the JRPG market, and how now it's a shock to see any of these games come third party come to Xbox. Like recently, we had announcement that one of Atlus's games will be coming. It's like, what?
Edge of Eternity, yeah.
Exactly, and so it's like it's a shock to the system because Sony has squared their market away by money heading third party JRPGs, and having that most people go. It is absolutely,
yeah,
it's
and
brilliant,
I think it's a winning strategy.
but it's like dirty at the same time. Yeah, and I mean they have to do what they have to do for their
Fighter
business.
is also synonymous with the PlayStation brand as well.
It used to be synonymous with the Nintendo brand.
Yeah,
So same thing with Final Fantasy. But that's what money heading does. It changes that. But what were you going to say, Joe? Sorry about that.
No, not at all. I just wanted to say, before we move on, did anyone else want to say anything about Street Fighter 6?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, I want to move on to Halo. Yeah, I want to move on to Halo. Sorry, Joe, did you want to say something, mate? Okay, so we'll move on to Halo then. Talking about what we were going over before, where there's not much of a roadmap, I think a lot of this could have been solved in the supposed live service game, which is Halo Infinite. Now, everybody knows I love Halo, but we had a mid-season refresh just recently, and all we got were bug fixes, no new content, no new maps. nothing. At the same stage in the life cycle of Halo 5, we had 11 new maps and Forge mode that had already dropped. For a live service game, I don't think this is good enough. So, Umbra, I know you love Halo, and I know you're a massive Halo fan, but was the mid-season update enough for you?
Was not. And, you know, I've defended 343 more than any other Halo fan I can think of, honestly. And it's just not acceptable, man. Like you pointed out, 11 maps in Halo 5 compared to what we have here. It's just, and this is after so much complaints on the lack of content from Halo 5 at a point. So to have that situation happen again, it's like, did you all learn your lesson? And it just points to, again, and we spoke on it before, and I think all of us agree, it points to a leadership issue, which goes back to, unfortunately, Bunny Ross.
Our favorite person.
Yeah, our favorite person to hate. and if she's listening, and I doubt that she will be listening to us, but it's all love, Bunny. But I feel like it's on you. Yeah, you know, all love. But yeah, absolutely, it feels like it falls on the head, right? Because how do you explain this continuously, where you just have this drought of content, and after a year's delay and so many other issues that plagued it, where people were so worrisome about 343 going already from 4 and 5, it's just not a good look for the studio.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
For the first time, I think they're getting pushback from the community, and we've been incredibly
Patient.
we have been, and we have backed them, you know, because it is a great game. But there's only so much the community can take, and it's starting to become very noticeable. Bearing in mind that Joseph Statham actually said that there would be a roadmap coming out in January, and that is his main focus. And we're now, you know, almost into March, and we still haven't seen anything. And it's just incredibly disappointing.
And that roadmap was promised for January, and it's we still haven't seen anything of it. Not to mention the fact that they're locking modes behind in the vault and then bringing them out as special timed events. That's ridiculous. You've got the modes, release the modes, put them in playlists so that we can choose the modes that we want to play. And just like you said, Pete, like there was 11 new maps for 5 by this point, and Forge. I believe they also had Forge at this point. We haven't got co-op, we haven't got Forge, we haven't heard anything. It's getting beyond a joke. And look, I know that we have been banging the Bonnie Ross drum, and it almost feels like, you know, we're the Tiger King and she's our Carol Baskins. But look, I really God damn it, Bonnie Ross. Look, I really think that someone needs to be held to account here, and we've gone over this privately, Umbra, myself, and Pete many times, and the person that you can just come back to, that you can only come back to, is Bonnie Ross needs to take responsibility for the studio, whether she's just a check signer or not, and start moving this forward. Joe Staten as well, I think, could do the studio some justice, and the game some justice, coming out and giving us a roadmap, or at least letting us know a dev diary of what's going on, because even Halo Waypoint's pretty quiet. Joanna Dark, are you a big Halo player? And do you think that it's just been way too quiet, 343, and it's time for them to really step it up?
I mean, I haven't played Halo a lot multiplayer-wise recently. I've just been waiting for the co-op for campaign. But I do understand the frustration for many people that are, you know, that love the franchise and are really into the multiplayer and have been starving for the content. I know that's a key thing, and, you know, hopefully the team can, you know, when they finally do deliver, they'll do their best to kind of give kind of what people have been asking for. I think, you know, one of the key things that we saw that people wanted to be focused on was making sure that, you know, the multiplayer was stable, things were fixed. Some of the short-term things that were gripe, I know the big thing with, you know, how much things cost, you know, big team battle, all these things. So I just hope that whatever update comes next, it's an update that's going to get the fans, you know, reinvigorated and happy, and something that hopefully they've been waiting for patiently.
Yeah, look, that's not to negate the fact that the bug fixes that they did implement were absolutely fantastic. the stability of Big Team Battle now is just excellent. When you're searching for a game in areas outside the United States, you're generally getting into games a lot quicker at a much lower ping. Recently, when you're in a full team, everybody appears, in that team as, you all got green names, so you know everybody who's in your team. All these things, yes, should have been there from the start, but they are there now. They are listening to the community, but the lack of content is telling. We need new maps, not just cosmetics. We need new maps. There wasn't enough to begin with, and we need to know when they're coming. We need to know when they're coming. I don't see why it's that hard to implement these amazing maps from Halo past and implement them into Infinite. Like, if they don't want to design a whole new map, you can just use the older maps and, respec them for, obviously, the grapple hook. That changes the gameplay somewhat.
And I
So
think
you go,
maybe
mate.
some of the, you make some good points, JediPete, but I think maybe, I'm thinking also some of the challenges has to be the way this specific Halo is kind of the vision, right? It's supposed to be on everywhere. You're supposed to play on everything, and the scaling of this thing. And I think, like everything else, it might be something that they are still learning and a challenge, because when you make a game that you're trying to make it as approachable, as accessible to so many players on different devices, that can also lead to challenges.
That's true.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And they spent, obviously, a lot of time working on that Slipspace engine, and we talked briefly about this before. The problem, I think, or part of the problem with the Slipspace engine is that they were left largely in development-wise to contractors, and Microsoft has a policy of only holding on to contractors for 10 months. Then those contractors are cycled out and more brought in. And with legacy bugs that you may have in, and that's just losing experience and losing base knowledge of your engine. And frankly, I think that it should have been full-time developers working on the Slipspace engine, so they know that engine inside and out, and it's not such an issue for them to go in and repair the bugs that have cropped up. So I think that might be part of the problem as well. Something else that kind of came out in regards to Halo this week was that there would be a Master Chief face reveal on the TV show. Look, my personal opinion on this is they don't have the right. They haven't earned the right to reveal the face, and I think that the only place where it should be revealed is in the video game, if at all, and by 343, if at all. Umbra, you have a bit of a different take on this. What was your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely feel you on that, but at the same time, we know that it's a different medium. So it's like, because they have to appeal to the audiences with actual faces, and we underestimate that, because after a minute, when you just see a helmet moving around, you don't get as connected, right? Unfortunately. So in order to connect to the audience, and possibly also to appease the actor, underneath, as we know with the Mandalorian, with where he complained, not having his face shown as well.
Yeah,
It's something that they're going to have to. Exactly, it's something they're going to have to. It's a tough pill to swallow, I guess, for us as gamers, and knowing how typically, we're putting to the body of Chief, essentially, and we're made the Master Chief. So I definitely understand why it's a negative to those people who feel that way. But as a medium wise, and even lore wise, it fits that he would show his face. I mean, only for us in a gaming part of it does he not show his face, but in the books, if you all have read the extended lore, he absolutely takes his helmet off. People know what he looks like. People see him all the time. So for that reason, I give them leeway there. I just think they just have to make him look cool. If that makes, I know that sounds shallow, but he can't look like an idiot, right? So show him looking relatively cool. I think Pablo is an extra. I mean, it's Pablo, right? That's his name.
Yeah,
he's an excellent
Pablo
actor.
Schreiber.
Yeah, he's an excellent actor. So I have faith in him, and I don't think his voice is that bad. I spoke on that before in the past when we talked about it. His voice, it sounds pretty good as Chief. It's not. It's clearly not, the Chief, but it's not bad either. So I think give him a little leeway. I think we got to kind of swallow that a little bit, just because of the medium it's put in. That's my take on it personally.
Pete?
Look, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I think the Master Chief is the everyman. Yeah, I know that they've showed it a little bit of what the Master Chief looks like in a little bit of the extended lore, but I think you're right, Risket. They don't have the right. I get that it's a different medium, but that's why you have other humans around the Master Chief to enable them to show those emotions that, you know, of humanity that is so much a part of the Halo universe. So I don't like it at all. I don't think they have the right. I think Umbra's right when they're trying to appeal to casuals. Whenever we've seen that with any franchise that people love and are devoted to, like Star Wars, Star Trek, when they try to appeal to casuals and not the hardcore fans, it never works out well.
Yeah, look, absolutely, I agree. And look, as a player that has nearly 200 hours into Infinite, and I don't know how many hours into Master Chief, but I would say probably at least 100. It doesn't sit right with me. I understand what Umbra's saying, and I agree to some extent, but there's got to be a way that it can be done in game first, or at least in Infinite first. Jack, what are your thoughts? I heard the big no at the beginning.
Yeah, I whined like a 4-year-old because that's how I feel. Reading this note. Yeah, like I just want to take all my toys and stomp on them and throw my food at the wall like an ass.
That's what Halo does to you when you love a franchise so much. We're passionate.
You're 100% right. Like I remember the first time I ever played Halo, I was sleeping over at my friend Danny's house as a little kid, and I never heard of this. And he had an Xbox, and I had a GameCube. So and I'd never played an Xbox. Like my first memories with an Xbox were the original Halo Combat Evolved as like a really little kid. You know, I'm talking like fucking 8, 9 years old. So fucking, you know, it's or maybe a little older, like 10, 11. But even so, you know, and then it honestly, it feels like, and this might be strong, and I feel free to, you know, interject, but it feels like they are bastardizing the legacy of Halo. And I think it's not so much about who the Chief is, but the Chief's story. And I think I agree with Brisket entirely. I feel they are not the proper authority to do it. I think that revealing the Master Chief should be something that should be consigned to a Halo game. I think the players have the right to experience that. I think 343 has the right to, you know, to do it the way they want to do it. I think it's wrong. I mean, everybody knows what Pablo Schreiber looks like. You know, that's, I guess, what you would imagine, you know, Steve Downes looked like, you know, 35 years ago. So it's not terrible. It's not like they're taking, you know, liberties with who and what the Chief is. It's not the time and place, and it feels a little like inappropriate to me. I think that, and maybe it's just me because I have, you know, so many great nostalgic memories with Halo. It's literally the genesis of my Xbox experience, you know. So I don't like it, but my dislike for it, I admit, could be very subjective. But on the whole, yeah, no, I agree with all of you. This is not the medium by which I would use to reveal that, personally.
Yeah, look, agreed. Joe, do you just want to quickly touch on this before we move to our last segment, which will be put this on the radar, which will be quite quick. I know I've taken up a lot of you guys' time.
I agree with Umbra. It's a different medium. They're showing the Chief, and I think it also aligns with the humanizing of Chief and how we've seen in the story that 343 has done. And with the game, is, you know, it's all about become, and they want to keep it separate, meaning that you are the Master Chief in the games versus what they're doing. And like they said before, this is a different part, like a different canon to the overall Halo lore. And I'm fine with that as long as, you know,
it's done well.
You know, if it's done well. And I think it's, you know, I'm excited to see the show. It's been a long time since the Xbox One era when it was announced. So let's see. I'm gonna give it a chance, and then if it's not great, then yeah, I'm gonna go and say, hey, you know what? Why did you take his helmet off?
Yeah, you ruined it.
I'm gonna be on. I'll be there with you. Why the hell?
You know, it's like that song, you know, Better with the Lights Off.
Right.
It really was. Yeah.
Just to give us a terrible show. Damn you to hell.
Look, so if you're just joining us, or if you've stuck with us the entire way, we really appreciate you guys hanging around. And we've got one last segment for the show before we do wrap it up. It's a new addition to the show. We did try it out once before, but now it's fully fleshed out. And we're going to call it Put This On Your Radar. And each week we'll be doing a game that really hasn't had much of the limelight, hasn't been heard about much, and you may not know about. So it's a great reason to stick around to the end of the show. If you are still here and haven't hit that like button, hit the like and subscribe. So, moving on, the game this week is Callista Protocol. It's an action sci-fi. It's a blend of horror and immersive storytelling, which is from the original creator of Dead Space, Glenn Schofield. It's somehow part of the PUBG universe, and it is slated for release this year. It's 2022. And Dead Space was absolute fire, and I'll put it up on the screen here. You guys can see the trailer for it. To me, this looks like I'm looking forward to this. I saw this, I think it was in 2019, and it looks absolutely amazing. You even have the little green thing on the back of his neck, like they had in Dead Space. So that was fantastic as well. Right there, you can see it on screen. I'm excited for this. I can't wait to see it. Pete, is this your sort of thing? Do you get into Dead Space? I'm excited to see that game come, I think, next year as well.
Yeah, look, I love Dead Space, and I hadn't heard of the remake of Dead Space when I first heard of Callisto Protocol, so I was absolutely overjoyed to hear that the guy that, basically was behind Dead Space was making a new game, and it was going to be another survival horror, sci-fi, in space. Footage that we've seen looks absolutely amazing, and now that they're making Dead Space, they're making that remake, I'm really excited to see which one is better. Will the original be better? There's been a lot of time passed since they made that one, and this one's coming out. Yeah, I cannot wait for this game. It's my type of game. It's a shooter. It's a horror story. It's in, the space universe. Yeah, I love it. I love everything about it. Cannot wait for this game, and the visuals look top-notch.
Umbra, did you get a chance to look at the trailer for Callisto Protocol, or had you seen it floating around?
Yeah, I seen it actually way back. Until I actually looked it back up, I was reminded, oh yeah, I remember this. During the conference, they showed this. It looks really interesting, actually. I mean, we actually have to see gameplay before we can go anywhere with it, obviously. But it looks like it has some good promise to it. I'm interested in it. It looks like it could be a really creepy spin-off of that, or should I say, spiritual successor, if you will, to that game. Absolutely. It looks good. I think it looks promising, rather. I wouldn't say it looks good, because we haven't seen anything. We haven't seen shit. So I'm interested in it, and I guess that's the best as I can put it. I don't know how it'll go until we see how it looks.
Yeah, same. We do need to see gameplay trailer. It's 2022. I guess it's like that Xbox thing. Show us what you've got. I want to see some gameplay. Mr. Joe in the Dark, did you get a chance to check out the trailer?
Oh, I saw this game, and I was already sold the minute I saw it. I guess this is what happens to all the people that don't get the chicken dinner. They go to this place, and then they have to relive the horrors of whatever is going to be there. But yeah, no, I love Dead Space, and this just kind of the vibe. When I first saw it, I was like, I said, is this Dead Space? Because everything, from the character and kind of having the thing on the back that Isaac Clarke had, I was just like, okay, let's go. So this looks like it's going for that feel, and I'm excited. Ken Levine gave us BioShock, which was originally System Shock, so I'm very happy to see if this can give us the same feeling. Another Dead Space experience.
That's a next gen one as well, hopefully. Jack Astronaut, what do you think of this?
No, I've been tracking this game for a long time. Probably about 4 or 5 months, because the trailer came out a while ago. Yeah, to me, it's great. I love anything sci-fi. Anything at all. I know Umbra and I have that in common. So whether it's Dead Space, Mass Effect, all that, I'm automatically on board. I'm a big fan of survival horror. I think, to me, I watched it. It looked gorgeous, but it was just it revealed just not enough to make it nefarious, to really pique your interest. It felt like Dead Space met Alien Isolation, and to me, those Dead Space was a fantastic franchise, and Alien Isolation I thought was an absolutely amazing addition to the survival horror genre, and I thought it was very innovative, particularly with the setting and the hiding mechanics and how they went about that game. I'm very excited for it, and yeah, barring that it's not another, burning, trashy, creative abortion of a production. To be perfectly honest, that's a game I could see myself easily pre-ordering, or not but downloading day one. I'm very excited for it. I think it's great.
Absolutely. Well, look, that kind of brings us to the end of the show. But before we do go, I want to thank everyone in the chat that turned up and made the show. You guys do help to power the show, make the show what it is. So if you're still here and listening, Grey Monad, Doovie, Palpatine, It's Timmy, Shizno Elite, Mr. Joe Dark, the Realist. Well, you're here in the chat, in the thing, Joe Dark. Realist, Boba Fett Gaming, Toolman, Silent Cypher, Gone Mad. All you guys who came along, Red Dead Panda, great to have you here. We've had her on the show before. Mr. Bushido, N7, all you guys that came along, you made the show what it is, and just hit that like and subscribe and share it out, and let's get this show absolutely cranking for the next one. And to our special guests, you guys have been absolutely amazing. I'm sorry that we've kept you for so long. It seems to be the magical number. We cannot keep it under 3 hours, and I guess it's just how we're going to roll. Mr. Joe in the Dark, you're a fantastic guest. You were last time as well. Thank you for coming along. Please let everyone know what you're up to, about your podcast, and where they can find you on Twitter.
Yeah, well, real quick, I want to say again, thank you so much. It was a pleasure just sitting down again and being on the show. So thank you again for the invite. It was a fun time hanging out with you guys. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, big_N_boss. And I'm also on Tuesdays on the Xbox Factor podcast with 10K Boom, Pong Soul, Mav, and Boxenberger. And then on Wednesdays on the Crazy Lou Gaming channel, it's Xbox International with my brothers, Crazy Lou Gaming, Sour Blow Gaming, and Silent Cypher. And then on Thursdays, I am on the Nickel Gaming Show with my friends and colleagues, Jasmine and Albert.
Oh, fantastic. You've got did not know about the secondary podcast. I'll have to get your link off you and drop it down in the description later on. That will be up, guys. Jack, it's always great to have you along, man. You've always got some fantastic takes on everything. Just let the people know where they can find you, and yeah, what you'll be up to.
Yeah, you can usually find me at Burger King at 2 a.m. or the local El Paso County Courthouse. I'm on Twitter at the Jack Astronaut. Thank you for having me on this show. It's been great. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate all the opportunities you've allotted me, to come on and just chop it up with you guys and, proverbially shoot the shit. Yeah, that's where you can find me, only on Twitter or in various arrest records. But yeah, thanks for having me.
And always, our panel, you guys have been fantastic. JediKnightPete, you've been great. Where can people find you? Oh, well, I know where we can find you probably for the next 3 months on Xbox, on Elden Ring. But if they want to contact you or see what you're up to, where can we find you elsewhere?
Yeah, look, I am on Twitter on JediKnightPete and on Xbox at JediKnightPete. We've also started an Australia and New Zealand community game night on Friday, Saturday nights. So that starts at 8 p.m. in Australia Eastern Time. Please come and join us. We are trying to grow it. It's always a great time. And if you do send me a message on either Twitter or on Xbox, I will add you to the club. Yeah, look, it's just been fantastic. We'll be doing it again tonight, so please come through, like I said, at 8 p.m. Australian time. Other than that, I'll be living and dying in the lands between as soon as we get off this show.
Yeah, look, absolutely. With the Community Games Night, look, please feel free to send me or JediKnightPete a message, or Boba Fett. You can find Boba Fett at the link down below. You can see it on the screen right now at Boba Fett Gaming, or on Xbox at Boba Fett Oz. He is the host of the Community Games Night. You will find me and or Pete. Pete usually goes to both nights. I usually make it on the Friday. I didn't this Friday, but I will be turning up tonight. So I'm pretty excited to play. I believe it's Doom 2016 multiplayer tonight. So that'll be pretty
Doom
interesting.
2016. If you can get me off Elden Ring.
And we do play different games each week as well, and they usually do pulled from Game Pass. So if you have Game Pass, feel free to jump in. Umbra, fantastic to have you here, man, and hear your takes. I'm sorry that we pulled you away from Elden Ring, but we all had to do it. Just let people know where they can find you, what you're up to. Will you be holding any spaces this week? How are things out there in the Twitterverse?
Later, maybe tomorrow, maybe. I'm not sure. I got band practice tomorrow. I got to do some singing, so I'll see. But absolutely, I will be suffering in Elden Ring, just like you all. Oh yeah, there's one time at band camp, stuck Elden Ring in my Xbox and suffered. But no, so yeah, I'm gonna be heavy on Elden Ring for this, like you said, maybe for the next 3 months, just like Jedi. And but tomorrow, just so you all would know, we had us a really nice gaming community night. It was just impromptu. It just kind of happened, and we had so many people coming in and out. I mean, from the big wigs like Cole Eastwoods and such like that, the Noof Nukems, all of them came through. It was an excellent night.
American community game night. It's either through Noof Nukem or Denitro. So you can also add me on Xbox, and I will invite you straight into that as well. That's the American one, and it starts 8 p.m. I think Eastern time in the USA on Friday. I think on Saturday night.
Perfect. So this one here was just impromptu, and everybody just kind of swung through. So if you guys are interested in trying to jump in to this tomorrow, they'll be playing Gears 5, Call of Duty Vanguard, and then we'll end it off with Halo Infinite again, like we did with custom games and big team battle and things of that nature. So if you're interested in that, look me up, Superhavoc, SUPER space HAVOC. And link up with us and have a good time too. Bring your best attitudes, and come happy and ready to play if you do. But absolutely, I will be suffering in Elden Ring for the time being. And you guys obviously can find me on Twitter under Umbra Infinite or Infinite Umbra. Either way, it's interchangeable. You're going to find me one way or another. Interested in having you guys come and communicate with us and kick it with us. So talk to you guys later. And thanks to everyone who came through and supported us as you all always do. Just to give love to these two, to Jack and to of course our boy Joanna Dark, who seems to have disappeared, by the way. You guys were the MVP again of this show. You guys continue to hold us down. Really appreciate you guys always being here. And Jack, you come in the last second for us at times, so really appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, thank you. Elon Musk.
No doubt.
Yeah, you got a whole week's notice this time. A whole week instead of like 15 minutes notice. It was well planned.
And love and support out to Ukraine and its people for everything that's going on out there. Just to throw that out there as well, and hopefully everything resolves itself in the most peaceful of ways, considering how it's going.
Yeah, absolutely.
I second that, mate. Well said.
Yeah,
really quickly, can I plug something really quickly? If you guys are interested in helping the people in Ukraine, as they're currently under siege, and it resembles sort of the London Blitz of 1940. The gaming community, the developers behind, oh my god, I can't believe I forgot it.
Stalker 2.
Stalker 2. Yeah, the developers behind Stalker 2 actually, and it's nice that this is coming from specifically the gaming community. If you go on Twitter, they have a fund, and everything will be donated to the Ukrainian Red Cross. So if you're interested in helping and making a difference and attempting to, sort of maybe, deal with some of the misery that 45 million people are currently undergoing as their homes are destroyed, then feel free to do that. I'm sure everybody would appreciate it. I think it'd be great for the gaming community to make a difference out there. The Red Cross is a very reputable charity organization. You'll be providing things like humanitarian aid, medicine, and food. So if you're worried about supplying weaponry, that's not what they do. And I believe everybody would appreciate that, not only on this panel but in Ukraine. And it would be a great way if you're interested in trying to make a difference over there.
Awesome, fantastic. Thank you very much for putting that out there. You can find those guys on Twitter.
Jack, have you done your outro yet, mate?
I will link that in the description. Again,
do you want to say where we can find you, Jack?
Oh yeah, no, I did that.
Yep, you did that. Yep, where you can find me is under @Riskit4TB on Twitter, or you can find me obviously here on YouTube. I am streaming quite often on Twitch as well, and you can find me at Riskit for the Biscuit 1. Please come along there and give me a follow. I'm trying to get to 50 followers, and it would be helpful if anyone who hasn't followed me goes along and watches me rage at Halo or whatever it is that I'm playing at the time, probably Elden Ring. Thanks again to everyone, to the panel, to the guests, and to the chat. We are out, and we will see you next week.
Thank you so much, everyone.
And